Hello, 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 everybody. We have Ashley with us.
Hey, everybody.
She's going to be talking about her son, Alex, and how she came to we'll say how she came to have and hire Jim Terry with her experience. So I'll throw the intro on and we will get this started.
I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains at last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
My friend made that intro for me, and I play it like every single time we try to do a live. I try to stay consistent with it.
Well, he's
But I love
he's
it.
an awesome guy,
Yes.
and and sings. I mean, it's the gospel, but he's a little bit hard to. I don't know to look at. And I don't mean that ugly, but it's just if I met him in a dark alley, I wouldn't think. He may give me pause.
Yeah, see, he's Jimmy here. He okay, so here, let me we'll give them a backstory, a little bit of a backstory. So we'll start this with okay, so this is Ashley and her son is missing at this point. It's been 84 days. Is that right? 84 days today.
Today is 84. Yeah.
So yeah, her son has been missing for 84 days. And so she was on here a couple days ago and kind of gave a little bit rundown, a little bit of like what was kind of going on. But we wanted to have her on to give like a full backstory and to be able to talk about Alex and what went on and what's going on and where she's currently at, how she came to hire Jim, what kind of scam he ran on her. And then when we found out that she had paid him and he had like blew her off, we were like, oh my goodness, I was extremely upset. So I was like, oh yeah, I hope that you can at least come on and chat. I know you have more important things going on, like for your son, to be looking for your son than to be dealing with this con. But I am so upset that he's done this to you guys and other families. It's just I'm beside myself that he could do this at all,
Right.
During the worst moment of your life. I just want to say that I'm so sorry you even you're having to go through this, and that you have to deal with him on top of what you're going through.
Right. And with him, it's like I said at the beginning, or the other day, initially he was on fire. That first week that we spent, working on things. Now, given it was 100% phone calls, But I just felt like, man, somebody's finally listening. We finally got somebody that's gonna help me get him home. And help us get some closure to this situation. And then, like I said, radio silence. And that part of it just, it bothered me, and is what kind of made us, Paul's own, we haven't even heard from him in 10 days. Do we really want to give him $1,500 more to ghost us? And then out of the blue, he called me, and was, and it was the first time I had spoken to him in, quite a while. And, every time he starts a conversation, it's always just right out of the gate and fast talking and things like that. And he was saying this and saying that. And, and by the way, you think you can go ahead and get that other 1,500 over to me? And of course, I know he heard it in my voice. I was like, yeah, we can work on that. But he's like, well, do you think it was going into 4th of July weekend? He's like, well, do you think you can have it done by this weekend? And I was like, absolutely not. And we left that conversation with, he was supposed to call me back, which is always how they end. He was waiting on a call from somebody at, a sheriff's department that was going to just give him the information he needed to just break the case wide open. And that was the last conversation we had. And then when he ended it, he was like, yeah, and, sorry, I hadn't really been, as available as I normally would be, but man, I've just been on all these shows and yeah. And, and I mean, have you heard about this Dylan Rounds thing? And I was like, nope, I'm not familiar with Dylan Rounds, but okay. Well, anyway, just let me know, I'll be up late tonight. So just call me. And once you speak with the, with the person at the sheriff's department, and let me know. Well, when we hung up the phone, I was just like, wait, okay, who's Dylan Rounds? And so, obviously I have my phone right there. And when I typed in that name, and it was just all this press, and, and it broke my heart, because here's another missing person. But wait, he got an interview with Fox News. He's on People Magazine. Is this why I haven't heard from him? Because he's over here helping this family. I thought you were mine. You told me, this is my biggest issue. You told me one case at a time. And if you've listened to one video, because he's got his whole spiel, I'm a football, I'm this, I work one case at a time. Well, no, you weren't. You weren't working on my case at all. I've spent a month. We had one good week of making phone calls, and I felt like we were making progress, and then it kind of stalled, and he got stuck on this one thing that really wasn't where we needed to focus, in my opinion. And we discussed that, too, but it was just, it's hard to find the words to describe it, that when this has got to be the hardest thing that anybody, whether you're a mom, a dad, a brother, a sister, anybody that physically loses, that has somebody that they love and care for, just disappears.
Yes.
There really are no words to describe it.
It's like I said, like I described, it's the worst time of your life. It is
right.
the worst. It is the worst thing, basically, like the worst timing of the worst thing that could happen to you in your life, that your child. And I don't care if they're 25, they're still your baby, they're still your child. That's you know what I'm saying? Right. That you look at them all the same. I mean, I do. Mama bear is a mama bear is a mama bear. It doesn't matter how old you are. You're still my baby,
Absolutely.
So it's the worst thing. And for him to take advantage of people during right. their worst, most vulnerable, horrible time in their life, it's awful. And it made me sick to my stomach to hear what he was doing, and then to hear what he's done to you guys, and hear what he's done to Candy's family, and to hear that he's done this over and over and over and over and over again. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot right. believe.
Well, and I'm so grateful that it was, I never would have known, the depth of it. He, like I said, he told off on himself. But then once I started paying attention, it's not just me. It's Aiden's mama he did this to also. It's David's mama he did this to also. All of us entrusted him to help us find our most precious, the most precious thing in our lives. We entrusted him with that, and he lied to us.
Well, yeah. And so I put up the text messages because, okay, so when your son went missing, of course, you're reaching out to the police station. You're trying to do everything you can do. Your boots on the ground. You're trying to find stuff. And so you come across Jim Terry, right? Or he reached out to you, correct?
Yeah, it was a cold call, and I hate that I missed the first couple of minutes of recording his call, but he actually reached out to me initially on Facebook Messenger on May the 20th. And if you're not friends with somebody on Facebook, then, and I didn't even know there was a spam folder in Messenger, but there's a spam folder in Messenger, that if you're not friends on Facebook, it sends it over there. And so he's like, well, I've been trying to reach out to you. Have you found him? Have you found him? And I was like, you've been trying to reach me. What, who are you? And so I jumped over there and I saw it. Well, on May the 20th, and again, it was late in the evening, he sent a message on Facebook Messenger. Hello, he was found, ? And of course I didn't get that. So I didn't respond to it. And then when he called me that night and we were talking, he's like, yeah, I tried to reach you on Facebook Messenger and I found it, and then he sends me a link to, how a teenage boy used an Uber Lyft to get Taylor teen away from home, and that was the first case that he showed me. And but from the minute that he started talking, I mean, literally my husband and I looked at each other, had on the speakerphone, and we were both like, is this like some kind of scam call? Oh my goodness. And so I jump up and grab my other phone and start recording it. And then, and it was a pitch. And he's got it down to a T, but I've heard it so many times now because it's the exact same thing he tells every person.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and read your message. So basically, he messages, this one says, Tuesday, May 31st. And it says, this is Ashley Easterling Martin. We spoke about my missing son, Alex Easterling, last night. Are you available for a call today? Want to talk brass tacks about cost and game plan. My sister and father would like to be on the call as well. We can video chat or regular phone call. Let me know your availability and I'll get something set up. So then he's like, whatever you're most, so then he goes on to say, whatever you're most comfortable with, will do. I don't mind doing any of those, and I'm wide open as I'm in between cases. Don't forget, I only take one case at a time. There it is again. So right. Until I take, okay. And then so we'll go over to the next message here. I'll pop it up real fast. So it's on. So this one, he says, okay, so whatever you're most comfortable with, will do. I don't mind doing any of those. I'm wide open as in I'm in between cases. Don't forget, I only take one case at a time. So until I take one, I'm free. You let me know whatever you feel most comfortable with. Video chat's fine. And you're like, so let's plan to talk at 11 a.m. Can you FaceTime or would it be better Facebook Messenger? He says, yes, just let me know how you want to do it. And you said, if you have an iPhone, I'll just FaceTime you. So, and then after that, I also have so what was it that day that you sent the payment then to him after you guys talked and you guys?
It was, it's probably like 10:30 at night. Okay. And we went back and forth and and there's the Venmo.
So there's the receipt where you paid him the $3,000, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So.
And we agreed on $4,500, but and my thing with that is, when he came out with $4,500, I was like, heck yeah. But at that moment in time, I literally would have sold my soul. I literally would have given up just about anything I had if I thought it was going to bring my son home. And he knew that.
And he knew that. And that's what makes me sick to my stomach is he knew that you were, and any mother or any family member, you're going to do anything. Like you said, you would sell your soul to have your baby back, to have anything to find him, bring him home. And for him to take advantage of that, it makes me so infuriated and it makes me sick. I just can't help but to call him out. And I'm so sorry that he's done this to you guys.
I'm sorry he had the opportunity to do it to any of us, and I look at what he's done to Dylan's mom and the trauma, daily trauma that he continues to put her. I know how hard it was for me. I mean, all day long, this has been a really tough day for me today. It's like I said, you have good days and bad days. Today's been, one of those tough days. I actually got to spend some time with my mama this afternoon, and the two of us just squalled together. But but to know that he's doing that to her, and it's not just that he's asked to stop, got an attorney to send a cease and desist letter, but he's made it personal. And to put somebody through, I mean, that's traumatic in itself, to belittle somebody on a big platform like YouTube and things like that. But don't forget, she still hasn't found her son. She's still missing her son and working tirelessly every day to find him despite Jim. That's not how people with integrity don't do that.
That's right. People with integrity do not do that. Hey, Good Egg, I seen you just popped up. What's up?
Hey, how are you?
Good. You're talking really low. Either you're really low or I'm like not loud enough. Is that a little bit better? Yeah. Can you hear her? Or is it just me? Ash, can you hear her?
I can hear.
Okay, so it must just be me. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Hi, Ashley. How are you? I also just wanted to let you know, Queen, that I have the clips from Ashley's calls where, like a little clip from the first pitch. And, we hear him saying, again, I only take one case at a time. And then we have at the end of like another long conversation with a pitch where he tells her, take your time, do whatever you want to do, like no rush, but I do have another family that looks like they're going to go with me and I can only take one of you. So take you still have a couple more hours to create this idea of pressure to jump at it, because basically he was saying, if you don't hire me, or if this other family hires me, then I can't work for you, even though we know that
that's a lie.
Isn't true.
Yeah, that's a definite lie. But to even put you in that position when you're already, you know what? Let me take this down, and you girls go ahead if you want to play this now, or do you, Ashley? Do you want to finish? What are you comfortable with? What would you want to do?
I'm gonna let you guys take the lead, and when y'all need me to comment on something, I will be right here to do so.
Okay, sounds good. I'll take this down then, and if you want to add your screen, I'll pop it on.
Yeah, it should be there. I think it's up, Queen. It just still has the other overlay in front of it. So Ashley, I joined a little bit late. So I didn't know if you want to start with going through your timeline a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you want to, or you want to kind of start with the gym stuff? Because I have the timeline stuff first.
No, in the timeline, I'd love to talk about that part of it. And like I said the other day, just to be preemptive on anybody with their negativity and things like that, with some of the details that go along with his timeline. Yes, my son struggled with substance abuse. Mm-hmm. I had a really hard time initially talking about that so openly because I felt like I was airing his dirty laundry. I was telling his secrets, and he wasn't here to defend himself. But addiction affects a lot of people, and it doesn't just affect the person who is using. It affects everybody in their circle. And I don't care. I don't care if you've used once, if you've used for 20 years. It doesn't mean that you are less of a person. It doesn't mean that you don't matter. And it certainly doesn't mean that you can just be dismissed and disappear and that we're all just going to forget about you. That's not how that works.
That's right. And addiction does not discriminate. It does not discriminate. And I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of people that addiction affects either them directly or even with their family, their children. I mean, it's so many people are affected by it. So many. And I don't ever want you to feel like you can't talk about that here, or you know what I'm saying, or be comfortable here, because we all understand.
And
and
in all
we don't judge at all. So
right. Well, and that's because y'all are good people, and I guess I feel like I have to preempt that with, and had to say that up front, because Jim gets personal. Yep. Jim finds the things that he knows will hurt us, and he uses those. And he doesn't get to use that against me. I'm well aware of the struggles that my son had, and you don't get to use that against him. So I'm just trying to stay ahead of that part, because
right.
He'll be lucky that he's on a YouTube screen and not standing in front of me if he has something negative to say about my son. And I'd probably be standing in line behind a long line of people that would want to get to him first if he had anything ugly to say about my boy. And I'll leave it at that. But with Alex, Wednesday, April the 22nd, he had just been released from jail. And he had been arrested in February on an outstanding warrant. And so he was in jail, and it took me a long time to get to the place where I was, where, no, I'm not coming to bail you out. You sit there, and that's right where you need to be. And so he did for 2 months. And the day he was released on the 20th, I went and picked him up. It was the first time I'd seen him physically, in person since probably before Thanksgiving, and so, I picked him up. We went by Walmart. I got him a new phone because, I mentioned the other night, that phone is a lifeline for moms, when our kids are, not on the straight and narrow. It was kind of a security thing for me. So we got him a phone, we kind of piddled around town, came back to my house and ate, and, just visited, just spent some time together. And then, I was getting ready to take him home to his house in Pickens. Well, if you pull Pickens, Mississippi up on a map, it's this tiny, tiny little town, very, very impoverished. And it's not somewhere that I needed to be after dark. Holmes County has a lot of crime. Anybody can pull it up online at any time. There's a murder just about every week. There was one that just happened a few days ago where a young man was shot, I think I was told, over 60 times. 60 times. In a town just right, a few miles down the road from Pickens, still in Holmes County, but it just wasn't where I needed to be. So I was a little bit miffed that I was having to drive up there. I'm not even going to lie about that. But we headed north up the interstate. And when we got off at the 144 exit, which my family, again, has lived in Holmes County for 6 generations at least, I could make that I-55 North 144 exit trip with my eyes closed. I've done it so many times. So we jump off the exit, and he's like, "Hey, Ma, can we run by the store real quick and just let me grab a couple, a pack of cigarettes?" And I was like, "Well, sure." So we ran, we turned left, went over to the Shell station, and got a pack of cigarettes. And when he came back out of the store, he's like, "Hey, I just talked to a buddy of mine, and you can just drop me off at his house. And that way he'll just take me on to my house a little bit later tonight." And I was like, "Well, I'm already here, it's no big." He's like, "No, I know you really don't want to go all the way, so it's fine." I was like, "All right, well, where does he live?" He's like, "It's just right back across the overpass." And so I was like, "All right." And so we drove over, and again, very rural. It's super dark out there, and it's nothing but woods. And when we turned on the road, when you get close to the house, the first thing that set off my alarms was the mailbox at this house has a floodlight, and it's a motion light. And when it comes on, it was blinding. And I was like, "Oh my, what's up with that? He was like, well, I guess it's just, security or something. I was like, well, okay, well, I mean, it's almost hazardous. And then my second flag is when we turned into the driveway, there was a car that was on the, it was on the wrong side of the driveway if it was leaving. So it was, it was on the right-hand side of the driveway. And I was like, what's this person doing? He's like, oh, don't worry. That's just his brother. And I was like, okay, well, does he know he's on the wrong side of the driveway? I was like, this, anyway. So we pulled in, and when you pull into the property, and again, very dark, it's a thick gravel driveway, my headlights hit just this big field of just junky old broken down. It looked like a big junkyard, a car junkyard. And I was like, what? And then I turned and looked, as I'm turning in, there's this huge wooden fence and more floodlights and all that. And I was like, hold up. I was like, where are we? This place didn't feel right to me. Who lives here? And he told me his name. And of course, I'm terrible with remembering things. So I actually, while we were sitting there and he told it, I texted it to myself so I would remember the name, and dropped a map pin so I could, God. And it was almost like I knew, just it had that bad vibe. Well, anyway, so he got out, and I got out of the driveway, or I got out of the car, and we were sitting in the driveway, and we talked for a second, and I just said, all right, well, I'm gonna head home. And I hugged him. I wish it had been a little longer. May I have to give me a second?
Take your time, Ashley.
Yeah, I was going to say, take your time.
I need to do this for him. So, anyway, so I hugged him and gave him a kiss on the cheek and said, all right, I love you. I was like, be smart, babe. Be smart. He's like, I am, Mom, I am. He's like, just text me when you get home and let me know you made it. I was like, all right, I will. And that was the other thing that kind of signaled it is, it didn't matter if I was mad at him, if we, whatever it was, anybody in my family, whenever you get where you're going, you just send a text, whether it's, one more home or made it or, whatever it may be. We just do that in my family. Even, friends of Alex's that, can speak to it, that's just what we do. Well, I got home, I left him at right around 8:15 and I got home at, it was right at 8:50. And I know that because that was, I've looked back at that text so many times. It said, I made it. I love you. Be smart, and I didn't get anything back from him. I was like, okay, well, that's, weird. And I went ahead and went to bed, later on. Well, the next day I called him, several times through the day and never got him. It actually rang for the first little while, but then it started just going straight to voicemail. And of course I texted him all throughout the day, but a little bit later in that night, I sent him a text and I was like, look, if I don't hear from you in the next little bit, I'm going to call the sheriff's department and have them come do a welfare check on you. And I know you don't want them to come to your house. And, if nothing else would have spurred him to call me back, that would have done it, and nothing. And so, and that was a full 24 hours at that point in time. And when my husband got home from work that night, and I wanted to call, I had just had that gut feeling, but I was like, no, Ashley, you're just overreacting. It's fine. Well, when my husband got home from work that night, I was like, hey, so look, what's like a reasonable time frame to call and get a welfare check on somebody? And he was like, you still haven't spoken to Alex? You still haven't gotten in touch with him? I was like, no. He said, right now, right this minute, you need to make a phone call. And so I did. And the next day, because that was on Thursday when all that, 24 hours. Well, the next morning, my dad went and met with the Holmes County Sheriff, Willie March, and said, hey, look, my grandson's missing. We just need to go. I know where my daughter dropped him off. So can we just go check it out? And so they all went out there. And the guy, I won't say his name, even though I want to terribly, but come to find out, unbeknownst to me, I dropped him off at the dope dealer's house. And, it's like I said, I didn't have any idea, I don't live in that world. Alex and I, we had put that separation, if this is the world, your addiction world, this is real life over here. I can't intermingle the two because I don't condone it. I don't want to be a part of it. I'm here for you when you're clean. So I had no idea. But everybody else did. That's the big part of this whole thing. Everybody else did. The sheriff did. The sheriff tried to pretend that he didn't know who Chucky was or where he lived. Yeah, you do, because you dated his mom. But anyway, so that day, Sheriff March went and spoke with Chucky. He's like, hey, can you tell me about Alex? Was he here? And he's like, oh, yeah, he was here. And we talked for a little while, and he had gotten a new phone and told me that he needed some phone numbers. And so, but it was, and I know everybody can kind of read through, but he gave 3 different stories to 3 different people on the same day when he was asked the same question. The first time, one of the times it was, we were talking and he needed some phone numbers. So I went inside to get my phone and I came back out and he was gone. Another version was, we were talking and I went inside to get my shirt and put my shirt on and I came back out and he was gone. And then the third one was, but I went inside to get a cigarette. I came back out and he was gone. So he had no idea where he went. He was just gone. Well, Alex didn't have a car.
So they all 3 said the same story. They all 3 went inside for something, and whether it was a shirt, a cigarette, cigar, whatever, and they came back out and he was
came back out and he was gone. He didn't have any idea where he was, whatnot. Well,
I'm sorry, I just don't believe that.
No, and also it wasn't 3 different people giving.
No, it wasn't 3 different. It's the same person
giving the same.
Oh, this is one person given 3 different accounts.
Mm-hmm. The primary resident of the house.
Yes.
Oh my God.
The drug dealer, Alex's dope boy. Yes, 3 different versions of what happened, but all of them ended with, I went inside and I came back out and he was just gone. So that
a lie either way, but
right,
they can't prove any different yet. So
right, so it in that part, so there's your first, but and again, I stress this, to this day, 84 days later, this individual has still not been formally questioned by any member of law enforcement. Not a single one. And that part of it, I don't even understand. So that following Saturday is when we actually my dad went and did the missing persons report.
Wait, what? Can I ask why have you asked the police why haven't they interviewed him? Why?
Well, he did, and I think I'm gonna find that just so I don't say it the wrong way. But he actually was asked because, you have to have, and the whole probable cause and blah. I mean, I'm just astonished by the lack of effort on any part of anybody. So they asked him to come in and voluntarily make a statement, and he agreed to do it. And I'm trying to see which day that was.
On May 2nd. I have
May
it.
2nd. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you. So he was scheduled to come to the Holmes County Sheriff's Department to give his voluntary statement at 10. Well, I know the ineptitude of the Sheriff's Department. So there is an agent with the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation that we've been working with since, the very beginning, that they can't actually go and assist unless they are asked and invited by the Sheriff's Department. And that I still don't understand that rule either, but you can't, the sheriff is the top person in charge. And if he doesn't want you there, you don't get to come. And so I made a call to the NBI agent and said, hey, they've got an interview scheduled with him. And it would just really make me feel better if you were there, just even if you're just a witness to it. He was like, absolutely. And so he went. Well, he texted me, the NBI agent texted me a little bit later that morning and said that, yep, he arrived, a little after 11, which, he just traipsed on in or whatever. And I think that I'll call him a suspect, the person of interest, I think he full well expected to walk in that sheriff's department and it just be the sheriff's department staff, but he walked in the door and went in the interview room and saw the MBI agent sitting there and went, yeah, no, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm feeling intimidated and I want to talk to an attorney. And that was it. And we've now since found out that, yeah, he called an attorney and he got his free consultation on the phone, but he never retained him for services. So he doesn't really have an attorney. And they
never went back and questioned him or anything like that. Nope. They just let him say, I want an attorney and walk away. And that was that.
I had a follow-up meeting.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a follow-up meeting with the sheriff's department on the 16th of May, and I had this big, long list of questions to ask them, and that was one of them. I was like, so why hasn't he been interviewed? And they were like, well, he asked for an attorney. I said, okay, well, how long of a grace period do you get for that? I mean, it can't be.
Well, if he didn't obtain one, right? If he didn't obtain one in the last 30 days or even 2 weeks, or you know what I'm saying? Right. I mean, yeah, there should be a limit. I know Perplex did have a question. She said, one, there are many reasons. Could he be an informant? And two, what kind of drugs did that guy deal?
Okay.
Well, maybe that's why they, you know what I'm saying? Maybe she's saying like, maybe that's why they didn't question him or something,
And it's 100% a part of it. And I do want to tell you, Perplexed QT. I did hear a little bit of what you said when we wrapped up earlier today, and I want to make sure 100% that there was absolutely no offense taken at all, because there is an inherent risk with the lifestyle he lived. And my gut tells me one of two things happened. He went there straight out of jail, and if that's the first place you want to go when you get out of jail, you want to go and get your fix. That he had gotten out of jail, went straight back to it, got either bad dope that's got the fentanyl in it, had, too much, whatever it was, he overdosed, they freaked out, they hit his body. That's logical. The other was he got arrested, wasn't on any drug charges. It was just on the outstanding warrant. And there were 3 other people that were arrested at the same time as him that were in the same vehicle. They all went to jail on drug charges. Alex didn't have any drug charges because he didn't have any drugs on him. But they did take him in for the outstanding warrant, and you disappear for 2 months from somewhere that you are on a regular basis. And then you just show up out of nowhere. You got a new phone with a new phone number, and they thought he was a snitch. And because I don't want to make it more complicated than it is, it's something to do with drugs, whether he overdosed or whether those people thought that he was snitching on them, or the day he got arrested, maybe product got lost or money got lost, something in there. But that person knows if he's not the one who's directly responsible for my son's disappearance, he knows who is. Period. End of story. It is what it is. He knows.
I think, especially if we go through the next few slides for everybody else, you'll see why there aren't really a lot of different options that don't involve this property. Because we'll talk about the cell phone pings and the canine searches. So it's actually pretty clear cut. There aren't really a lot of explanations that would have Alex leaving that property. So yes, and I think that it's just I thank you so much, Ashley. And it's definitely a bit overwhelming. I think that you when I was going through your timeline, I felt like you could have been a private investigator, because this was all just written up by you and your family members, and you were hitting the ground running.
Yeah. And so you will have to forgive me, because I was trying to make it third person. And this is my OCD. Anybody that knows me knows punctuation and grammar I'm a I'm a grammar Nazi, sorry.
No,
But it's half of it is in first person and half of it is in third person because I didn't get it all the way finished, but you can still follow through with it.
Yes, it was
But
very
my dad, my father, and I know, I got to give my mom a little bit of credit for my nosiness too, because she can find out anything about anybody too. But my dad is also a Mississippi private investigator. He has since retired from doing it. I feel sure that if they needed his services, he would be more than happy to help somebody. Right. But I know how it works, and the meticulousness of these notes. Somebody had to be taking them and keeping up with them, because I knew that we were going to need this at some point in time, because the Holmes County Sheriff's Department was not ever, they had never had any intention of helping us. So when we finally found somebody that could, I wanted to be able to put it in their hands so they were up to date on where we were and not way back behind and have to catch up.
Right. Because it is stalled right now, but there is a lot more things that, as we go through this, that were done, so it's when people see, like, there's a trail there that's like very, like, there are next steps, like they're very clear. But for example, you guys did a ground search like almost right away, and you did drones right away. And then I know that so then on the 28th is when you had the K9 teams come in.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that day before, and I have to give a shout out to Twyla and the group with Texas EquiSearch. Mm-hmm. She really helped us get those first initial resources that we needed. Her, and I'm going to give, I have to give a lot of credit to the Lexington Chief of Police, Sam Dobbins. Mm-hmm. He is one of the few law enforcement people who truly, has tried to help us, but he's the chief in the city of. The county trumps that. So he, there's not much that he can do past that. But yeah, when we had the drones come in, they did the big overview of all the area, and they were able to do it amazed me with what they can do, because based on the clothing that he was wearing the last time that he was seen, they had the spectrum details to where they were specifically looking for shades of blue or shades of this, to where they could narrow down, areas that really needed a search concentrated in.
Right.
And that was just, that part of it was fabulous. So they flew the drones around the day before. And then that Thursday, the 28th, when we had the canines out. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, those folks are absolute heroes as well. But we had two different handlers. Well, it was two teams of dogs. One set were trailing dogs and one set were cadaver dogs. And I've now, learned that there's a huge difference in that. My education in this has grown tremendously over the past 84 days. But we were allowed, we were told we were going to be allowed on the property. And when we got there, it was a little bit of a, I don't know the right word for it. He didn't want to let us in.
Right. Because he would have to give permission for it to happen, basically.
Well, and, I think one of the things that kind of kicked it into gear with him is Chucky. And I didn't know him. I'd never met him. I just saw this short, stocky fella come walking out, and he walked over to the sheriff's deputy and shook his hand, and they're chatting, and my dad's standing there, and my dad shook his hand. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe this is somebody, that's going to help us. Right. And so I started to walk over to where they were. And when he turned to me, I had seen his picture on Facebook, and knew that he had a full gold grill in the front. But he had short hair in his Facebook profile picture, and now he had, about shoulder length, little short dreads. But when he turned to me and smiled, and I saw those gold teeth, my lower Alabama came out. I just have to, that's the only way I can describe it. But he actually stuck his hand out to me like I was going to shake his hand. And, that didn't fare very well for him. I was actually had to be, they made me go sit in the car after that.
Right.
But after that, he made a phone call directly to the sheriff himself and spoke to him. And then he made a follow-up phone call to his mother. After he hung up the phone with his mother, he's like, all right, I guess y'all can go on and look. They were given. Now me, my husband, and my father were there, as well as one of the sheriff's deputies. We all stayed on the outside of the big fence while the search teams went inside the fencing, because it was all kind of separated out. Those trailing dogs instantly hit Alex's scent. Instantly. It was right there at the front gate. You walked the path straight up to the front porch. They did a couple of circles on the front porch, and then the dogs tried to go over off this, it's a trailer house, and so they had the front porch built on the thing, but you could go off on the other side of it. Well, the dogs, and those big bloodhounds they'll jerk you down. I mean, they wanted to get around, and that's when kind of things changed. And Chucky was, here's another little side note. When we got there, I don't know how big the area was, but it was a pretty significant area of his yard that was freshly tilled and dug up. I'm like, equipment is still there on the property. Big digging equipment, a big, a tiller that you pull behind a tractor, that whole thing. And he was planting himself a vegetable garden. Well, he was over there, trying to do vegetables, and while he was breaking his neck, turning around and watching, where the dogs were going and what they were doing. Well, when the dogs tried to go off the porch into the backyard, the whole situation changed. He jumped up out of that garden, running over there, waving his hands in the air. Y'all can't go back there. Y'all can't go back there. He didn't go back there. And one of the handlers said, well, I thought you said you went inside and came back out and you didn't know where he went. So how do you know he didn't go back there? I'm just telling you right now, he didn't go back there. You know what? This is over. This is over. Y'all got to go. And that was it. Yeah. So then, we were able to go right back behind the property and go all the way up to the backside of where his property started. We didn't want to cross the fence, because we wanted to do things the right way and not make it to where something could be thrown out in court because we were on the property illegally. Because we still didn't have a search warrant or anything.
Right.
Well, the cadaver dogs are what kind of sealed it for me. It's the verbiage that they use. They indicate, and then they have a final indication. Okay. Well, the dogs were indicating, and with cadaver dogs, it has to be human decomposition. And from the very second that a person ceases to be living, the process of decomposition starts. But whether it is blood, any kind of bodily fluids, blood, things like that, they can detect. Now, upchuck or, pee or BM, anything like, they're not going to, that's not something they detect, but it's blood, bodily fluids, and decomposition. The dogs alerted, the cadaver dogs did, but never made a final alert, but they were too far off from where they would have or where they could have. Mm-hmm. So, that was, for me, that cemented it. I was like, okay, well, here's our probable cause. Who do we need to get on the phone with? Who signs the search warrant?
Right. No, because the dogs wanted to go further, right?
The dogs tried with everything in them to go further.
Right.
And I've got the audio from the debriefing with the canine teams, and it's pretty good. They said, oh yeah, he was 100% sure he was there. Obviously we know that. And I can tell you also that with how my dogs do, did not leave that property on foot.
Right.
Those were the things that were confirmed to us.
Right. So with the pings of the phone and the cadaver dogs, he couldn't have left on foot. And even if he had left, let's say, in a vehicle, it would have been much later at night because his phone was still there. So It wouldn't have been this quick, talking on the porch for like 5 minutes type thing. Like even if he did leave in a car, it would have happened. His phone didn't leave until much later, until it basically died.
Well, and that's the other weird thing, is that, I didn't even know what the Google timeline was before this either. Is, I'm one of those moms. I know all his passwords. He knows all mine. So jumping on his Google account that was instantly what I did.
Right.
And found the timeline. I was like, oh, well, look, no, he never left here. It says he arrived at 8:15 and was here, until that phone stopped, till that phone stopped working. Well, it was a few days after the dog search that we actually had a very close friend of the family that had passed away, and we were at my mother and father's house getting ready for the funeral the next day. And my mother, bless her, she was supposed to be one of the people who was reading at the service. Mm-hmm. We're all like, Mama, it's okay to say that you can't do it. And she's like, no, I love this family. I promised him I would. I'm just going to try. And so she pulled out the notes on what it was that she was going to be reading. And the Lord was at that table with us at that moment, because the verbiage, and of course it was a funeral program that we were putting together. And so it was just all about, I know you're sad, but don't be, because I'm home with my father. I know that you're going to be sad to miss me physically, but I'm always with you. It was such a spiritual moment. And as we're sitting around the big dining room table, and I'm still just my face in the computer, because, at that point it was nonstop for me. And I was on the timeline and I was looking, well, there's a little slide bar on the timeline. If if people who are familiar with it probably are like, well, yeah, well, I touched that timeline where it, it says 8:15 to, 3, whatever. Well, it slides. And when I touched that timeline, that last ping never left Chucky's house. Just a huge blue line shot straight out across the interstate to the woods. And that is a moment that it's the moment that we knew.
Right.
It's just the moment that we knew. And it was one of those things where, and it was like 11 o'clock at night. And I jumped up from the table. I was like, I found him, and I was ready to head out the door. I was putting my boots on and I was like, let's go, somebody get the flashlights, but it wasn't possible to go. Right. You bet yourself, before the sun was even up, we were out the door and we were going. And we searched and we searched and we searched. And and it was just, it's such a defeating feeling that, to do that. And it ended up that it was, the ping wasn't accurate. And so, it was just, that was just another one of those things where you just get the wind knocked out of you again. But we knew at that point in time, something nefarious had happened. No ifs, ands, or buts. Even if he had overdosed, you can't just hide a body.
Right.
You can't. Right. There are Good Samaritan laws in the state of Mississippi that if you render aid to someone who is in an illegal drug, right. It's what it's based on. If you render aid, you are free from prosecution.
Right.
They give out Narcan for free.
Right.
I always had it on me.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I saw Alex, I'm like, hey, is your box, are you good? Is it expired? Check the date. It's just, you just do that. But when you hide it and cover it up, that turns into something else.
Right.
And I understand being scared or whatever else, but in that, to me, there have been so many occurrences in Holmes County too, where they just find people in a field or in a ditch or in a car. The overdoses in our area are astronomical.
And
And that was actually one of the rabbit trails that Jim went down, was one of the stories that we were told by a police chief in Pickens, Mississippi, that there had a few years previous been a situation where a young man and young woman had been at Chucky's and gotten bad dope. The boy that was there overdosed and went unconscious almost immediately. The girl was by gunpoint also made to do the same drug. She immediately passed out. They loaded him up, dumped him in a field 1 county over. And this is all verified and came straight from the police chief's mouth. They dumped him in a field and just left him. They were dead. So what? Let somebody else find them. The girl actually survived and came to. Mm-hmm. Immediately made her way to first she ended up in a little shop somewhere close by, and they were able to call the police for her. She told them her story. There's nobody that can even tell me her name. There's nobody that can even tell me his name.
Right.
How do you die in a field? Not even, and there's no report on it. You can't tell me who this was. We've searched for obituaries. I've talked to, that just doesn't. But if it was just a simple overdose, right. And this is why it makes me think that it was more than that, they would have just dumped him. They would have just dumped him off somewhere. Everybody knew that was something that Alex was into. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't have been I don't want to say it wouldn't have been a surprise,
right?
But it wouldn't have been, it still would have been crushing,
right?
But it would just be different. So, that part of it, but they were able, time is just dragging on. We've got the dogs, they hit on something. Okay, why can't we get, and of course, by this time I'm just, we're all just losing it, talking about what is it going to take? Well, they finally got a search warrant for when you pulled up to the Stockyard Road location. We'll say it like that. There were security cameras everywhere. And they got a warrant for the property owner's phone and the surveillance system data. And so they went and retrieved it's a data box or whatever. They got the box, they got the phone, and I don't know that they took his physical phone or just got a warrant for phone records. I'm assuming it's phone records. I would love to see the actual verbiage and the text that they had back and forth that night, but I doubt that'll ever happen. But they got the box. It went to the Mississippi Crime Lab. We were told it could be anywhere from 6 to 9 months before the data could be analyzed. Just for the simple fact that the Mississippi Crime Lab is so backed up. I read an article like 3 days prior to this that we have a 2-year backlog on autopsies, and that Mississippi is having to farm out autopsies to other states, to surrounding states, because we just can't keep up. Wow. So, the video surveillance equipment, that it could tell us everything. It could tell us nothing, but maybe another 6 months before we see it.
So it's the security system hard drives for that house?
For that house.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And also the phone records for the primary resident.
Right.
And it was taken by not your, again, this is not your county sheriff that did this, but this was the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation.
Right.
So,
and honestly, I don't know who. I know that the MBI agent told me that he personally retrieved the box.
Right.
And personally dropped it off at the Mississippi Crime Lab just because he just knew that would make me feel better.
Right.
But I actually don't know who authorized the warrant or any of that. I feel sure it was somebody besides Holmes County.
But there is, this is when I was looking at your, what I was trying to say earlier, when it feels like nothing, well, like right now, like nothing is actually being done, but there is still like a lot of evidence that was taken that's we analyzed that could, lead to a probable cause to search. But as you just said, I was going to ask you, like, what's the deal with that? And you're saying it could be months until it's processed.
I would have thought that the probable cause was you gave 3 different versions of events for the last night that he was seen by anybody, and you were the last person to see him, and you can't even get your story straight. To me, that's probable cause. The dogs hit on here, and you lose your mind when they try to go to the backyard. That should be probable cause, but evidently it's not.
I know, and that's why when I was first hearing the story, I was like, there has to be something else. Like, it cannot end there, because obviously the answer is there on that property, no matter what. And how can it just be stopped? How can it keep going? So I was happy that they actually. I mean, I still think, like, I don't know how slow this can possibly go. I feel like they could be pushing it harder, but I do think it could be a really big deal, depending on what they find. Hopefully they find something.
Oh, yeah. Well, and to add injury to insult, or insult to injury, my dad told me that when he followed up with it, because he actually lives in Lexington, right there where the sheriff's department is. And when I tell you, he is on them, every day, whether it's a post on Facebook, whether it's a call to the sheriff, whatever it is. What have you done today to find my grandson? What are you doing today to find my grandson? And of course, he always gets the same, answer. But he told him the other day that he had gotten a call from the crime lab, and that they were having to order a part to be able to get the data off the machine.
Oh boy.
But I'm like, what? But anyway, so that's that.
I also have up here the your GPS locations, and if people notice, you want to explain to people that you actually found out that the Google phone detects activity, and the activity of tilting means lying down, means going to a position.
Yeah. And Google's definition is, it's on there on how they describe it. And I didn't even know that existed. But if you go and this could be a solution for so many other people that, if you can't get the triangulation, if you can't get this, go look in your Google account, and it's called your Google takeout data. And you have to really dig to go find the little button to push. But when you click it, it provides you, and it's a JSON, a JSON file. If the data comes back in, of course, I had to open it in WordPad. I mean, it's like we were having to go totally. And when I tell you, it's like reading Greek. Yeah. It's better than ones and zeros. It's not, exactly code, but it was, I had to really sit and figure out how to decipher it. But it gave me latitude, longitude. I mean, every step of that entire day, from when we were at my house in Madison all the way up, things like that. So I basically started at the last ping, where, there were 2 pings that were done where the phone, and it was twice, in the same location. And that was that spot kind of over in the woods. The last 2, that are on there show, the first one's a little bit closer up, and then I backed it up so you can kind of see where it is in relation to where Chuck's house is. Yeah. Right. But it's basically, and I could verify all of it with my phone records too.
Wait, is this the house in this last one?
Well, and I can't zoom in. It's on this. You're on this side. If you go to the thing right before this, I'll show you.
Okay. It's the blue. Oh, okay.
Well, it's not even the one with the big water. It's down. Well, go up one. Okay. And one more. Well, shoot. I wish I could do a pin thing to you. Yeah.
I know. I can if I put this on, I can zoom in on it later. But people who are watching, it's like it shows the ping, like even here. And by the way, the address here is not the address. This must be the address you use for That's not
Well,
the
no, and I didn't even type in addresses.
Right. So I don't want people to
I
think it's
all the only because I didn't want it to be skewed. I sat down and I literally have like 9 pages on a legal pad of latitude and longitude because I just went through and wrote them all down. You know, every time I saw a lat and long, and I just did them in the order that they came across the data, and then came back in later and just typed them in, you know, 32 point, you know, blah, and the negative 89 blah. So the address is just what the latitude longitude came up with.
right.
You know, my, you know, that lat long is that dot.
Right. So you see, like, it shows even the difference between moving around the house, like if the changes.
Walking around, right.
And at one point, the one where you said it's in the tilting activity, right? So this idea that if the phone in his pocket is saying that he like quickly
the phone was in his pocket, it went from straight up and down to flat. That's, you know, and you know, and Google does the fall detection. You know, I mentioned that I worked in the senior care industry for years.
Right.
I mean, that was a great thing for seniors at home, you know, or the crash detection, you know, they can determine, but the Google detected activity defines tilting as the device angles relative to gravity change significantly.
Right.
And it did it at 100%. That means
It was
100%. It's 100%.
right.
And that happened. It was 100% tilting at 8:29, and it was 100% tilting at 8:33. Well, right in between that, at 8:31, he's in the middle of the backyard.
Right.
But he didn't go back there.
Right.
He didn't go back there.
Yeah. And you had just dropped him off. You had just dropped him off pretty.
This was within 20 minutes of me leaving him.
So
they knew he was coming.
Right.
The brother was sitting in the driveway with the lights on, almost like he was waiting.
Right.
And we've heard from multiple sources. Mm-hmm. The brother does the dirty work. The brother is the muscle. The brother takes care of things. You know, I've heard that so many times. Well, the data. Do you think that the sheriff's department even gave this a second glance?
Right. Which, yeah. So, because your son had been in jail for like 2 months, right?
Right.
And you had picked him up, and he was with you the entire time until you dropped him off, correct?
The entire time. Never, you know, we were never apart.
Right. So if he was, you said, a heroin user, he would not have used for 2 months straight.
Right.
So if he's obviously going, as you said, he's getting out of jail, and the first thing he wants to do is he wants to be dropped off.
Straight to it.
Fixed. Mm-hmm. And if he got there and he did that, he probably did it pretty much immediately.
Right.
And I know that it is possible that if an opiate user has been abstaining for an extended amount of time, like 2 months, their tolerance level
is much lower.
And it can cause like those immediate kind of
Absolutely it can. And I'm the first person to say that's what made the most sense to me.
Right. Especially like right then after he got there, you know?
Absolutely. You know, and if that is truly what happened, I can accept that. I can accept it. I've known
for a long time. Yeah.
Drug use ends in 2 ways.
Right.
You're dead or you're in jail.
Right.
Period. Or you get sober for the lucky ones.
Right.
And that's a hard journey.
Right.
But some people come out of it. And I know that there are a couple that are on this feed listening right now, and you keep it up and you take it day by day. Right. So, but with the ping itself that was over in the woods, and when I tell you, you know, I've studied and made my husband go back to this spot and that exact latitude and longitude. And he's a hunter. And so we've got these GPS things and we're walking in circles. And he's like, baby, he's not here. And I'm like, let's just make one more loop. Well, when I went back and looked at the data part of it, one of the things that you see something that says accuracy and it says 2,600 accuracy. And I'm like, well, how do you get more than 100% accurate? You know, but you're looking at the location, something else that I learned is the 2600, the accuracy number, the higher that number is, the larger your radius of that ping is in meters.
Right.
So you do 2600 times 3.
Yeah.
We just covered that whole map.
Right. Wow.
So, in order to try and, get even more technical, I went and bought the same phone. I went and got that exact same Samsung phone and did the exact same trip, even went to my house first instead of just around the interstate, left from my house, came straight up the same interstate, drove over to the Shell station, came back over. Now, I didn't go to the Stockyard Road address, but I did go on the road, and I just went a little bit further up the road and parked and sat there for about, and it was my sister and me and my mom, and we just sat there for, 10, 15 minutes. And then we went home and went home. Well, when I got back home and started looking at the data, and I'm trying to find, I've got another ping that we were able to recreate where when I looked at where the original last ping for Alex's phone landed, and then I looked at where the ping landed from where we were that night, and I was still just right down. I was on the same side of the interstate as this property is and all that. It was also on the same, it pinged in the same spot. Alex's last ping was exactly that much further north that I was that much further north on this side. So, exactly. So I know that he did not leave that vicinity. Even though that ping shot off to the side, it was still right there. He was, that just confirmed it for me more. They still won't take a look at it.
Right. And just to be clear, like all this information that everybody is hearing, this was done by Ashley, Alex's mom, and her family and volunteers and people that they organized, resources they organized on their own right off the gate from April 22nd up until like May 30th. So all of this information, you did this without, you found like a good agent at the MBI and things, like you definitely had support from different places, but this was your project. And then all this information we have is because the family did what you might expect, so like a private investigator to do. So
this would be their job. Right.
So at this point you had gone this far, and you were looking, you kind of got this meeting with the sheriff's office on May, let me just find it right here.
It's 16th.
May 16th.
That one, and that was it was mind blowing. But
so here you're kind of like, you're kind of stopped. Is this correct on this page, next to this one, that the primary resident, the person whose house he was at, that he went into Alex's home?
Yes. See, and I thought that we had been able to add that. So the day that my dad went by and was like, hey, Chuck, where's Alex? I know he was here. And he was texting back and forth with my dad, all that morning. Well, my dad, and he actually may be able to explain it a little bit better. I don't want to garble it up, but essentially my dad, he was like, well, hey, let me just go check something real quick. And I think I might know where he might be. Well, he left his house. Chucky did. Oh, sorry. Maybe I said his name. The individual left his house, and went to the home that Alex had been living in Pickens for 2 years. Said he climbed in a window, but he couldn't have. I'm 5 foot tall. He's maybe an inch or two taller than me. There's no possibility that he could have climbed in a window. He had a key to that house, and went in Alex's house, and I'm like, what? Why? We just let him go in?
Why? Yeah, why?
Right.
It's not like he knew where Alex lived and you didn't. You guys could have gone over to Alex's house and gone in that.
We weren't, no, well, and here's the other, stick it to you. We were told we could not go to Alex's house. It was a crime scene and everybody had to stay out. There was no entry allowed into the house that he had been living in because it was considered a crime scene by the
But the last person who saw him.
Right. But the last person that saw him traipsed all through there. And here's the thing too. My dad was he was like, well, he called him on the phone. He's like, well, Chuck, where'd you go? And he was like, oh, I just rode over here to Alex's house to see. He was like, you're at Alex's house now? And so, of course, my dad jumped in his truck and flew over there. And, thank God when he got there, he instantly took his phone out and did a video walkthrough, right then when he walked in the door. Because again, he's got that private investigator background. So he knew to document things. And so he did an entire video walkthrough of the house just to see, if there was anything that looked hinky, there was 100% certainty Alex had not been back to that house. And he had not been back to that house after I dropped him off that Wednesday night. I mean, and that was clear to everybody. You would have seen the clothes that he changed out of or anything, but he had not been there.
Wow. So after that's actually really bizarre. And then, you didn't really have much in here, but the primary resident, the person that you're talking about, I guess the name that you're calling by is not his legal name, so it's okay to refer to him as.
We'll call him Chucky.
Right. He's currently on probation.
Parole,
because he was incarcerated for a while, correct?
Well, he got an 18-year sentence for the sale of a controlled substance.
Right.
And the county that I live in, Madison County, you don't get away with anything down here.
Right.
If you drive through my town and you've got an out of county tag, you're getting pulled over.
Sure. Yeah.
Just period. And had this situation happened down here, it would have been open and shut in 3 days, and people would have been in jail and they would have been held accountable. But yeah, he was arrested and charged and convicted in Madison County, and received an 18-year sentence. He did some of his time in jail in Mississippi. He's got a all kinds of shorten your sentence thing. Well, he was released on parole.
Okay.
Well, I automatically went, because I know those folks that live in town too. I went straight to the probation office and was like, hey, we can't, any way to get in that door. I was like, hey, he's on parole.
Right.
The parole officer can go in his property, in his home, anytime for any reason, just because.
Right.
No, Ashley, we can't really do things like that anymore because, he keeps up with his fees. He's all caught up to date on those, and he hadn't had a hot urinalysis come back on us. So, as long as he's meeting those requirements, there's not much we can do.
So I guess he didn't have. I mean, because your son had. Did your son have? I guess did he have on his record any other charges that he shouldn't have been associated with your son?
Oh, no. Well, see, and Alex didn't have any. I mean, he had some charges from when he was 17 years old.
Okay, all right. But
and we went through that process. We went through the probation process. As a matter of fact, the probation officer that I was speaking to that told me that was Alex's probation officer, and I know him personally. I think he's a great guy. I think his hands are tied.
Right. Yes.
I know that his hands are tied because he's not the kind of man that would allow something like this. So
really what you're waiting on for whatever pressures make it happen is what you're waiting on is for that property to be searched. The woods, the property that extends behind it. Because the property that extends behind it that belongs to them too?
Some of it does, and it's all kind of chopped up. We did a large scale search on the 7th of May, and were able to get the map plats that had each of the properties, every property line and property owner and things that were in that radius. We personally called and got permission to search on the property. Every single person we called was fine with us coming on there. You search as much as you want to. Y'all come on. You got free reign, except for one, of course, except for one.
Right.
And so, we've searched. I honestly, I don't feel like he may have once been on that property. They have had 84 days.
Right.
I was already upset then that they had 30 days to cover it up. 45 days to cover their. I mean, we're almost 90 days out now. They could have taken him to China by now. But if he was on that property at one time, I don't think that they would be dumb enough for him to still be there, but they know where they took him.
Right. So so even worse than that, even more than waiting on getting the access, getting the probable cause from the phone records or something, but it would probably more now come down to somebody choosing to talk to get the whole story.
Right. And to me, and I will probably regret saying this out loud, but to me, there are 4 key people of interest, and I know we don't want to put all blast. What do we call that? Doxing. I've learned that's a new term I've learned recently too.
Even for convicted drug dealers who we suspect of this, we are still gonna.
Right. Well, and
it's okay if you want to when it pertains to your son's case or something going on like that or whatever. You're welcome to use names or say what you have to. It's okay if they don't like it, they can file a privacy complaint. We'll deal with it then. It's all good.
Well, file it in Holmes County, and that way I won't have to worry about anybody coming after me. But
these are like these are not.
Yeah, it's just on here. It's all good. It's nothing major.
Well, and my whole thing is there are only 4 people that truly need to be spoken to.
Mm-hmm.
Chucky, his gimp leg brother, the muscle, and the person who a 29-second phone call was made on the same day that Alex disappeared
at 8:30.
At 8:30, right? At 8:36, a 29-second phone call. Who he denies that he ever spoke to Alex, and one other boy who is the same age as Alex. They went to school together up there. He is also, in that addiction cycle. Mm-hmm. We have heard from multiple people that he was there that day.
Right.
And I'll give this to him. The sheriff's department actually did question him.
Right.
Brought him in and said, hey, we've just got some questions. Alex is missing, blah, blah, blah. So were you there? Were you over there that night on April the 20th? Oh, no, I wasn't there that night. I was there the day before and I've been there since, but I wasn't there that day. Okay, well, thanks. Have a good day. And I was like, but what? So, well, where was he then? Right. Did we ask for an alibi? Can he prove it some way that he wasn't there? We're just going to take his word for it and move on. That's the level of incompetence.
Right. And so between these 4 people that really need to talk, and the one person, Chucky's just saying, no, I like refuse to come into any questions. Like, I want a lawyer, and like, yeah, they're going to have to. He has rights, so they're going to have to push on it at some point. He's saying that. So that's on like May 30th of this past year, May 30th, 2022, that he's not retaining an attorney, but he is refusing to cooperate. Right. So that's when you kind of felt at a standstill. You had done all this kind of work. And that is when it was pretty much the same day or the next day that
then my saving grace swoops in to save the day.
Right. So here's at this point, you've worked so hard. This is the 30th. You're hearing that like you seem like there's no way to proceed right now, even though you have a lot of leads. And then you're on Facebook, and what do you get on Facebook?
He sends me the message. He sends me something through a messenger and then calls me. I'm here to help. Or we were talking about Jim, right? Yeah.
Yes, Jim. Yeah.
and just calls me out of the blue. And it was almost like I was like, oh my gosh, my prayers have been answered. We've got a bulldog. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind assholes. Right. I can deal with you, but you need to put it in the right direction. Right. You know, I was ready for him because he wasn't a sugarcoater. He shot people straight. He was going to say what needs to be said. Yep. He was going to, I was ready for him to go kicking in some doors, you know, shaking some stuff up.
Yes.
And for the first couple of days, y'all, he really did.
Right.
He really did.
Because I listened to the some of the audio, the calls you had with him, and you know, you're right. In the beginning, it's a sales pitch, so it might seem a little slick, you know, like what but it seemed I listened to other parts where he was like, he was like, private investigators can do some things, and we do have some of this. Private investigators do some things that police can't do, right? So, for example, if the police say we don't want to talk to you, or this is not a jurisdiction, you have to give up. But he specifically said, what I can do is I can dog these guys and get on their door and be banging on their door until they talk to me. And to me, that is something where it's like, we're talking about convicted felons, like known drug dealers, right? Who might be involved in something of foul play. And you might have to pay somebody who does it professionally to go and really try to interact with them and like force some information out of them, because that's like scary stuff. That's a risk. That's not something that we can all do. Right. And so to me, the only value that I was hearing was if this guy was going to go boots on the ground and go and start to like interview these witnesses, these suspects, and like try to actually get somebody to talk or find out some information that the police can't find out because their hands are tied.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And then of course he also says, well, here is he mainly tells you that he only works one case at a time. Right. So I have a little bit of that, Queen, if you want to listen to the little beginning of the sales pitch. And then we have that other little short piece about the one family at a time. So is that okay if I play that now, Ashley and Queen?
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully Queen's still there. Also, hopefully this works. Okay, it might take me a little bit of time to get that going, but I don't think that...
Is it going to play back?
Are you still in here? Is Queen up on panel right now?
Yeah, I'm here. What's up, baby?
Oh, nothing. I'm just looking at... It looks like it's getting... Oh, I see what happened. Okay, hold on one second. I'm like going through the wrong slideshow. I had opened up in two things.
Okay, I was going to say, do you need me to play it or you got it?
I can pull it from my phone too.
You put an overlay over the screen?
Okay.
Thank you. And then I'll be ready. Hey, Tyler Durden.
Hold on, I don't think that's going to be big enough, so I'm going to see if any of these are longer, like a little bit longer. Hold on, let me see if I can put my other one up.
Yeah, it's really just about covering like the top left, actually.
Okay, I'll just put this one up for now.
All right, perfect. I'll be able to tell. Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. Okay.
That would be like going to the dentist in a flea market. You need somebody who went to school for this, who does this for a living, and it does this full time. This is a full-time job for me. I don't work at Perkins or at Arby's, and then I'm a school teacher and I do this on the weekends for because I watch Investigation Discovery. It's not the same thing. So when you look at something like this, I found a 16-year-old girl went missing, and when I found her, cops didn't give a shit. Didn't give a shit. Hold on, I sneezed. Excuse me. So thank you. So when I found her, I called the cops and they say, listen, we got a murder and a rape here in New Orleans. We'll get back to the girl with daddy issues. So a kid this age, what is he, in his late 20s, early 30s?
Just turned 30. Yeah.
He just turned 30. Okay, they're not going to put roadblocks up for this, but I got a shitload of questions that I would be able to nip in the bud, at least get you further down the road. But the fact that the family or the people's property reneged the search, I've had to deal with that before.
Right.
And I know how to get around that. There's aspects and things you can do that the police can't.
Okay.
A private investigator can. Let me explain how. First of all, the difference between a private investigator and the cops is they're bound by jurisdictions. If you have a police officer in Tupelo, Mississippi, and there's a burglary or a murder in Biloxi, if it's not, they can't go down there and solve it. They can't leave their area. I can go to about 8 different states. Number two, I'm not bound by, especially in Mississippi, which is about, other than like South Dakota, Wyoming, and Idaho, which is about as wild as it gets for a PI. I can pretty much do anything I want. And I don't get a lot of cases out of Mississippi because, most people don't want to deal with a private investigator. But there's things that you can do that the police can't. For example, the police probably need a search warrant for certain things. The police, if they're told lawyer, let's say I got one of these guys, because that's my big question, the people on that property. If I went up to them and I was a cop and they said, hey, listen, we don't want to talk to you, lawyer. Well, they can't say that to me. I'd make their life a fucking living hell until they talk to me. Right. They're going to talk to me. Now, the cops can get in trouble for that. What are they going to do? Call the cops on me? So there's certain things that you can do that are outside of the box that aren't illegal that will make these people talk. If that's where you believe this thing goes, but the bottom line is that's the last place they've been seen. But listen, I got a bunch of other things, but that's kind of where this is. I saw that you offered, or there is a $10,000 reward, but that's not the family putting that up. That's like a Crime Stoppers thing, right?
No, that's family. Yeah, because Crime Stoppers, they only publish Crime Stoppers rewards in Holmes County, Mississippi. If it's a murder, an actual murder, and they will do a $2,500 reward for that. I have 4 Crime Stoppers around the country that still owe me that money. Right. Nobody deals with Crime Stoppers. Yeah. First of all, they tell you you're anonymous. If you're anonymous, how are you supposed to get your money? Exactly. Then a lot of them have to be, you could wait 10 years for a murder trial to end and to pick up 25. People don't get involved with that anymore. Right. I did see that you guys had it up there, but if, let's say I had your son in my living room and I wanted the 10 grand, where the hell do I call? I couldn't even get a hold of you on Facebook and the cops aren't returning it. There was no phone number to call. So there was a Crime Stoppers number, but I don't know that had anything to do with the 10,000. So there were some things involved in this, and you've done some things very, very well. But there's been some things in this that just, they make me want to scream, because I think you are pretty close and you can solve this. But anyways, that's kind of why I was calling you. If you have any questions of me, you can fire away. But the worst case scenario, I think I could help you. Well, what?
Okay, so
Did it just stop or okay?
No, I stops there because I thought that was a really important clip, because Ashley, I think it was pretty clear there, since he wants to brag about that he doesn't have, he never signs a contract, what were the promises and the services being promised to you. And so basically what he says there is they can't talk to these suspects, these people who live there, these people who are at the scene because they lawyered up or they need a warrant. He's like, I will be making their lives a personal living hell. Like, I will be there. I will be boots on the ground. I will make them talk. That's basically what he was.
I'm going to be in their face, knocking on doors, getting it done.
Right. So to be clear, that's what you were asking him to do.
I expected.
All
right.
the stuff that you could do from your couch and more already at that point. And then it's just, and I know this is really tough because we've just heard Ashley explain this really huge thing that she's going through in her life and her family, and she's still dealing with that. And then we have Jim coming in. Just to be clear to everybody, this is all very, very new. this is basically what Ashley's living right now. We also have another mother in the chat. Just Marilyn's been in the chat, and we'll show David McAllister's information as well. So we all have to be like very sensitive to the fact that as we're discussing this, like we have moms who have lived it, who are here with us right now. So one, that was very clear about what he said, what kind of services he would be providing there in Mississippi for you. And then another thing that he said multiple times as part of the sales pitch was that you would be the only family. He could not work with more than one family at a time. And this next clip is from I guess another call, maybe like the next day or something like that, or maybe later that day. It's still in like a very short period because this is before they've actually Venmo'd him the money.
Yeah, this was that very next day, the 31st, just earlier in the day, that I wanted to have myself, my dad, and my sister on too, just because we were the trio that was getting it done, and I value their opinion and wanted their input. I wanted them to hear what he had to say as well.
Right. So you have another call now with your dad and your sister, and this was like a longer phone call. Like you were talking to him, and him making kind of like these same type of promises, like what he's going to do. And this was about like a 45-minute conversation. So this is actually just towards the end, as he's trying to seal the deal. And this is just a really short 1-minute clip, but it's really important. Hold on one second. It wants to cooperate with me.
And I know this is extremely hard.
I'm just going to take you.
Go ahead, Queen.
I was going to say, I know it's extremely hard on you, and I know you're going through a lot. I just want to tell you, I do appreciate you taking the time to come up here and talk to everybody and explain this so other families can be aware of what you've gone through and what he's put you through, and you know what I'm saying, what you've experienced.
Right. And mostly to let them know they're not alone, and Candace did that for me. And I have to give her that. She is one of the lucky ones that she got her boy home, and I know that she will be grateful for that forever. But she kind of helped me find my backbone, and I appreciate it so much. And I hope that we're able to do this for Maryland too. And to do this for, anybody else that's going through it, and just making sure they know they're not alone.
Yeah. So I'm going to play this really, really quickly. 1 second.
As far as I can with what I can do. Right. And hopefully, do I think people are going to lie to me? Yeah. Do I think that sheriff probably lied to me? Definitely. But he talked to me. He called me back. I get a lot of cops. They won't talk to me. I got one in Montana that still won't talk to me. And I found the woman. It just is what it is. You know what I mean? So you guys talk it over. You let me know. I do have another family that I've got to talk to tonight at 7 o'clock, and I've got to give them an answer either way. I didn't think they were going to go with me, and they have texted me in the last couple of hours. But take your time. You got a couple of hours. If this isn't something you want to do, I understand. But either way, make the decision. Call me back and let me know. My phone is always on, guys.
Sounds perfect. Thank you.
All right, guys. Be good.
All right. Bye.
My phone is always on.
Yeah, so I'll play that. I think I'll play that back again. But like, to be clear, at the end of the 24 hours when he's trying to pitch them, he's told them over and over again that part of the service is that he only works one case at a time. That's what he's promising them. He tells them, take your time, but just to let you know, there's another family that wants to hire me. And if they hire me, then I can't go with you. And they're going to be letting me know by 7 o'clock. So you still have a couple hours. And as we know now, they do hire him that night. They do send him $3,000 with the promise of more. And he did the same thing. He took the money from the rounds to work their case 3 days later. So, I mean, to me, this was really coming down to where people were talking about, well, just because he doesn't do what you wanted him to do. To me, I'm listening like what services were actually promised, and the working one case at a time was actually in writing as well, because that was on text message. But right, this is like recorded audio, verbal, and also in text, saying that I work one case at a time. That was at least one service that was clearly promised, and was clearly, because we have YouTube evidence of him working another case during this entire time. During that time, also after the first few days of being really available and enthusiastic and helping her with phone calls and things, he ghosted the family. They couldn't even get in touch with them. And we have evidence, right, that he was working for another family. So that was at least one promise of goods or services that was clearly not provided, wasn't followed through on. So I was not very happy when I saw that, when I listened to that.
And that's been my biggest thing, is if it wasn't true, you didn't have to say it, but don't use it as a pressure point to get me to buy in and to send you my money.
Right. Exactly. Right. I mean, that sounded like a gentle thing. Like, you just think about it, but it was very manipulative too, saying, right, but I have somebody, you have to make your decision, because if it's not you, you're going to lose out on this opportunity in a few hours. And if that was true, then I still think it's totally appropriate for a professional to give that information, just be like, just to let you know. But the fact that it was nothing more than like a technique, like an untrue, like a lie, just to like push your hand. And and I think I've heard other people say that he's heard that before too. I only work one case at a time, and I have another family that's interested. So hopefully you're the first ones.
Right. First come, first serve. When it's gone, it's gone. Right.
And then here is I'll see if I could put it up. My computer's starting to rebel against me from having too much stuff on it. But hopefully we can see this as well. Oh, actually, now you can, Queen, whenever you get a chance, you can take the overlay down now.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, you know what I'm saying? I just wanted to make sure and wait for a minute.
Overlay. But yeah, it's good.
Well, and I have some of these other pictures too that I was gonna put up too. Oh, you got messages behind this? Okay, I'll take them down. I was gonna say I got pictures of these two, and I just wanted to put them up because they're he's handsome.
I know. No, he is very. And then look how beautiful Ashley is too.
I know, that's what I told her today when she came on. I was like, "Go ahead, girl, you're beautiful."
Thank y'all. Let's just say I don't feel real pretty right now, but it's one of those things that you put on your best face. I actually did finally break down and go buy some waterproof mascara so I can start wearing makeup again.
It's just like, that's why I'm talking to you, and I think about something just surreal, right? Because this is not like I can't imagine, like I truly could not imagine or even try to fathom at all. And here you are talking to me, and sometimes I can't even get myself together on a regular day. So I'm overwhelmed, really. This is also from later on that night when they decided the pitch worked. This is her asking, could you start for $3,000 instead of the whole $4,500 up front? He says, yep. And she goes ahead and they Venmo the money. And to be clear, he also, after how many days would you say it was until he stopped? You couldn't get a hold of him anymore.
I actually screenshotted because he also got me to install Trap Call. It's this great app that unhides number, whatever. I actually even bought into that crap that he sold me on. But let's see. So I screenshot him from the 13th of June all the way to the 23rd of June. I thought it was 10 days to the 23rd of June, from June 13th to June 23rd.
You could not get in touch with him.
No.
Right. And he hadn't, clearly you still needed him to do work. He hadn't finished the work or anything. And did he ever go down to Pickens and knock on doors and interview?
Are you kidding me? No.
Just to be clear,
He
because
actually suggested to my sister and I that we go up. Oh, no. That we go out there and put up deer cameras to monitor Chucky's house. That we should go and put the deer cameras out of the property or out and around the property so we could monitor it.
Right. So I mean, I don't think you need to pay somebody $4,500 for them to tell you can go do surveillance.
Right. And look how handsome David is, Marilyn.
I know. That's just what I had at the end of the slideshow. I had the pictures of
and everybody keeps talking about how
Alex,
how strong I must be for 84 days. She hasn't seen her baby since 2017. I just couldn't. I don't know that I can be that mom.
Oh, my heart breaks for both of you. But thank you. Marilyn, do you want to come up here? I will send the link to you, and you just click on the StreamYard link and come up if you would like to. No pressure. I'm just offering if you'd like to come up.
Because we can 1000% arrange it at a different time, Marilyn. Because I know it's like really your first time being at the channel, and also Ashley, you've been up here for like almost 2 hours. You are doing so amazing. If you need to drop off or go to the backstage, like please don't. Like I think that you've said so much, and I think that's fine. We don't want to.
Yeah, and I'll probably just the backstage. I'm just sticking on mute and just continue to listen.
Yes, that's totally yes. Please, like don't everybody like. I think that this has been like a marathon for her, and we got through a lot of really important information. And yes, Ashley, like please, like feel free to just listen. And I just had David's pictures up here as the last part in the slideshow, because we just found out about how Marilyn found like this little group of amazing moms, and that she was going to be here today. But that's certainly something that Queen would be happy to talk about more. It's clearly a process. Like Queen, you were talking to Ashley for a while. Like, I mean, the way she processed, how quickly she processed finding out what Jim was doing to being here, it's still like a matter of like a week or maybe 10 days. So that's already like huge to be able to do that like this. So it definitely takes some time. But thank you, Ashley. I really, really, I don't even know what to do. I feel like I just want to help. Like I just want to be of like any service. So. And then again, here is again, I think the link's been dropped in chat a few times, but there is a Facebook profile actually called Find Alex Easterling. As you may know from another stream, she told Doug, I'm losing my mind. Jim told them do nothing for 2 weeks. They have been doing all this stuff. They've been really working, hitting the pavement. And he said, really, you need to let me do this for 2 weeks. Do nothing for 2 weeks. They sat on their hands, and it was the hardest 2 weeks ever. And then he also just falls off the face of the earth. And so this idea that she feels like a little bit like she's starting over. So this profile is kind of new. There's not so many people following it. So please, like, if we could drop the link again, I think it's right down there. Perfect. Thank you, NorCal Girl. Find Alex Easterling. That's what they're using right now. The family is using. And especially people who live in Mississippi or live in that area, I think that you sharing things and keeping this alive, especially in locally or in the local news media, is really impactful.
Okay, I did post the link, so if anybody does want to come up, or I mean, I know you said, did you say something about your dad was going to come up, or he wanted to? I think maybe somebody in the chat said something about her dad was going to come up or something like that. But anyways, I posted the link in case Marilyn wants to come up, or if anybody has questions or anything like that, you know, be respectful.
Right, Pecan Pie, because saying it's the same thing he did to the Rounds case. You know, everybody else out here is talking about Jim Terry in the context of the current case that he's on. But what we had discovered, and we're trying to show, this is not like a matter of, is he right or wrong? Is this an opinion about a case? It's not. This is a pattern of behavior where you can just talk about one family's story, and then you can find other families that have the same story. And that's what's happening. It's kind of overwhelming, honestly, because this is such heavy stuff. I feel like I certainly feel like I am not equipped at all to handle the material in any way. So it's intense, and I can't even imagine what it's like for the people who are actually living it.
Okay, I have Marilyn backstage, but it's not allowing her to, it doesn't have a way. Marilyn, if you go check the chat, I posted a screenshot in there to show you, there's 3 dots up in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. If you click on that and if you open it and go down to open in Chrome, and you click that button, it will open it for you to where you have a camera, or you can allow your camera to come up on panel. You don't have to be on camera, but you have to allow it on your phone. Like, you have to allow it to, you know, so it'll let you in. Because it's saying edit name or kick from studio. There's no way for me to let you on panel. We might have to work with it or show you how to do it, because there's 3 buttons in the upper right-hand corner that you have to click on.
Yeah, it is not easy. When the first time you go on StreamYard, it's a little confusing. It's always good to have to be able to get that little test run beforehand too. So you can always help out with it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if she's not sure how to open it, it won't let her on panel. I've already tried, but it won't let her on here without the camera. So she'll have to hit that link, you know, like when she clicks the link, but she'll have to go up, like as soon as she clicks the link for StreamYard, when she clicks the link, she'll have to go up in the right-hand corner, and there's 3 dots like 3 dots up in the upper right-hand corner. And when you click on those, it'll open. There's like 7 or 8 things there, but open in Chrome is one of them.
Yeah, she said mine keeps saying it blocked me.
Yeah, she has to go up and open it in Chrome, so it'll allow her in.
It was a little tricky for me too the first time I tried it, and of course,
Yep.
it's just one of those things that if you don't do that every day, it's hard to do. But if we need to work around where maybe she calls me on my phone and I get it, I mean, I don't want it to be a terrible connection, but at least
yeah. See, and I tried to send her a screenshot with like an arrow up to the top, like there's an arrow up to the 3 corners, up to the 3 dots in the corner, to try and show her like.
And I also I also told Marilyn, like, if it doesn't get figured out right now, we can do like a private chat later after the thing, and we can like be on the phone with her too, and like actually.
Oh yeah, you know what? We'll do that. We'll go ahead and do that. We'll try that and set it up with us so we can get it figured out. So
I think we should do that, because it's already causing so much anxiety when you're trying to fix a tech issue.
Yes.
So maybe Marilyn,
after
this we can set up a private StreamYard, like a regular, or even like a Zoom.
Oh yeah, where we'll just figure it out and chat and stuff like that. Yeah, we'll get it figured out. Oh, she said I see the 3 dots.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so if you click those three dots and it'll say like open in Chrome, it just says it on the side or whatever. If you click that, usually it'll let you in, but it might be giving you trouble. And if it does, it's okay. We can do one and, we'll get you in here. It just takes a minute. It's just text,
Yeah,
it took us forever to learn how to do all of it and learn the tricks. Probably like the last year and a half, 2 years we've been on here.
I know. And at this point, right, Queen, you're usually doing about like a stream a day.
I'm still learning. I've been kicked off panel 15 times usually by now.
So yeah, like if Marilyn pops up, it'd be amazing to see to hear her beautiful voice. But if not Marilyn, we will do a total like a rehearsal run on it, and we can do it on a like tomorrow or something. So we're like have it totally debugged before we try it.
Yeah, and I appreciate you coming up here. I knew, I already knew Jim was going to coward. He was going to be a coward. That's just who Jim is. He is a coward. But if there's any way that we could at least prevent another family from, being a victim of his or him taking advantage of them or, give another mama a backbone, like you had said, anything to let them know, I know there's some women that, they, one lady came forward to me. She was talking to me in my email and she's like, I'm just so upset with myself that I believed in him, that I believed that he would help me. And I'm just so embarrassed. And I said, don't be, because like you said, you would, sell your soul to have your baby back or to find your son or your daughter. Don't be embarrassed. Don't ever be embarrassed for going, to whatever links, you think you need to because I definitely would have. I wouldn't have thought twice about it. I would have just said, you know what, if you can get it done, let's get it done.
And listening to the phone calls beyond hearing the pitch that Jim was giving, which
right.
My alarms because it was the same. I know things that aren't true, and it's the same words I've heard a million times, and and the fact that he cold called them. But if you didn't know all that he had cold called them, and you were just listening to their first conversations where they're giving the information, and he's saying okay and asking questions and saying like, I can. The police don't have time to be like, on this dogging this guy every day, like knocking on his door every day. I could do that. It didn't sound like crazy. Like, yes. And then we know that he didn't have a contract or whatever, but in the moment when he's talking, he's saying, you've done a good job. Like, this is what I can do. To me, that would seem like a rational thing to do. Like I like me personally, like it's not particularly safe to go out and start banging on doors of a known drug dealer's house, right? And like insist that they tell you something that you think.
Yeah, that's not going to work out very well. And Jim knows that. He knows that.
Professionally, it sounded in the beginning. It sounded like he could offer a few things. So it's not.
Yeah, with his narcissistic, like the way he, his personality, he makes it like he will make it out that he's gonna find her son. Just like he, like up until the day that found Jed Hall, he claimed that Jed Hall was alive. He swore up and down,
right,
to their fate, to Jed Hall's mother, and he takes advantage, like I said, of these guys, of these women and families, at their most vulnerable point, at the worst part of their lives. And that's what hurts me the most. And there is no words for it.
There really isn't. Like, even now, like I already felt, me, I already say like, I would not be on a I would not speak to Jim on a panel or anything like that. I wouldn't associate with him. And then we knew that he wouldn't come up, but like, Ashley had wanted him to like answer some questions. But now at the end of that, the thought of him now coming up here and injecting his voice after hearing from Ashley seems wrong to me, Yeah.
He isn't even worth the time, and the only reason I was going to allow him up here tonight was because Ashley specifically called him out. She wants answers, and I believe she is entitled to those answers. I believe he owes her that at the least. If anything, he needs to pay her $3,000 back. But we obviously know that's not going to happen.
I even got out a fancy selfie light in case he needed to see my real face and my real name.
I was going to say, you popped on, you're looking all beautiful. And I'm like, oh, go ahead, girl. You said, well, if he wants to start that show your face shit, I'm here. I'm like, yes, girl, show up and show out, baby. Right. That's right, mama. So yeah, he just, like I said, I didn't think he was going to have, the backbone to come over here and speak for himself and, talk to you and answer for what he's done. But, nonetheless, calling him out and, showing everybody what kind of a person he is. And obviously, with the proof and everything else, he's dirty. And I hope that we prevent another family or help another mama come up with their, with a backbone to help, go forward. Cause it's hard when you're hurting that bad. It's really hard. Like you said, some days are worse than others. And some days, you're out up and wanting to do stuff. Other days it's hard to even get out of bed. And there's mothers out there that, like I said, I have one in my email that's, she's very scared. She doesn't want to come forward because she doesn't want to be attacked. She just doesn't want to.
And that's so
she's scared.
It is going. I'm nervous. Like even when like meeting Marilyn, I didn't even get to meet her yet, but knowing that she was in the chat today, in the private chat earlier, I also feel like you don't want to pull people into something that it sounds like you should just be able to, share your story and speak up. But we know how YouTube is toxic in this way. That's just, you have to see it to believe it. And I feel like I don't even want to expose people who have been through so much to more of it. And it's really feels, it's just such a hard line to walk, and like what is worth it and what is not worth it. And I don't know. I mean, like I was looking at the mail fraud law in Mississippi, and I know that it's not always the way a statute's written does not necessarily mean that if you can apply it to somebody that means that they actually prosecute that crime or whatever. But to me, number one, obviously small claims court, I think absolutely, and I think he's counting on her not having the time to do that because it's not important right now with everything that's going on. But to me, obviously, I feel like Ashley would definitely be able to sue him in small claims court civilly for the money back, because she has the all this evidence that he did not provide the services that she paid for. And then there's also the idea of like mail fraud, which is through any communication, doesn't matter if it's on the cell phone, on the computer, or like through the physical mail. This idea of promising certain goods and services that you're fraudulently promising, like that you're not going to be delivering them. So that's why I tried to focus in today on listening to what he was actually promising. Like, since there's no contract, he can't say that this contract's the contract. It has to go verbally, and that is what she thought she was purchasing. Those are the services she thought she was purchasing, and she thought that she was purchasing his sole services just for her family. But I know I normally I feel like at this part in our life, I feel like energetic, and I feel like we accomplished a lot, but
I do too. And we have some new text messages to read out here too before we end this. This is Jim Terry's response in the most cowardly way possible. So we know Ashley did tell him to come on over. You know what I'm saying? That she was on here. She didn't get the opportunity to speak yesterday because she wasn't aware of it. She didn't know anything about him calling everybody to Monkey Mars stream or whatever, so can you see this to read it? If not, I'm going to send it to you real fast.
No, I could see it. Okay. This is Ashley, just saw that you invited all of us that have valid issues with you to come on a live stream and talk with you last night. I hate I missed it. I would have loved to be able to tell people the overwhelmingly disappointing experience I've had with you. I'm extending the same offer to you now. Queen Bee has a panel on now, and we would all love to hear your version of why you think the way you conduct yourself is okay. Come on over. It's like the most politely but like firmly worded text I've ever read.
That's that Southern belle. Kind of like, you never know what we really mean when we say bless your heart.
That's a bless your heart thing, right? Because I asked that girl that once, because sometimes that girl would say bless your heart and she sounded like she was saying it nice. I'm like, but I thought bless your heart was something that means that you actually don't wish them well. So I guess
it depends on the situation completely.
So here he responds with, go ahead. This is his response just now. This is his response just now.
Yeah.
So
I have no problem doing it as long as every host on that show gives their legal name and shows their face. I will be over there in a heartbeat. But I warn you of this. I am not going to go on these shows and fight you and give you the same press that made Dylan Round's case so popular. You will not get the same reaction. Good luck. Well, good. I'm glad she's not going to get the same reaction that he did to Dylan Rounds. Oh, wait. Yeah. And mind you, he's insisting that this insistence he makes is completely irrational. But also, this is a woman who basically still has him on payroll, right? Like, she paid him $3,000. He knows who she is. He's like refusing based on the idea that everybody who comes on panel or is in the chat or jumps up needs to like show their passport or something. Well, Ashley doesn't lose her mind, and she says, well, come on over and you tell your side and I'll tell mine. Looking forward to the conversation. Only if those women show their faces and give their real names is the only way I'll do that. Either that or you can come on any show that I'm on and I can set it up and we could do it over there. But I'm not going to allow you to use my name to catapult your story. I'm sorry you had that chance and you passed it up because you didn't want to pay the balance of what you owed me.
If that's not the definition of a total scumbag, I don't know what is.
I might pay for you to sue him in small claims court myself because
Yeah,
$500. I mean, he's delusional. He's delusional. It almost makes it easier that he's so irrational, I guess. But you are a real adult, Ashley, who's lived a life and like raised a family and lived a productive life. And he is well into halfway through his life. And I don't see anything real that he's built. And so that's that. And I don't really think you get all the answers you want. And if you need to get them under a deposition one day or something, I hope so. But he doesn't really deserve to even speak to you. So under his own terms at all.
Exactly. And he doesn't run anything. Like I said, he knew this was going on because he's been watching. He's still watching. He's just too much of a coward to come up here and answer the questions. And on top of that, you don't get as much press as Dylan. That's okay.
That's actually good because
I was going to say, because all you did was bash Candace.
Yeah. He wants to talk about how he caused all the internet notoriety around the Dylan Rounds case. Sure.
Right.
Probably true. The notoriety has nothing to do with the FBI coming in and solving the case. And I'm sure that it would have been much easier. This horrible thing would have been much easier for the Rounds family if the FBI had come in and solved the case. That would still be their worst nightmare. But none of this extra stuff would have happened. So she's quite lucky because he name dropped her on a live after he got fired after the cease and desist. This is how we knew. He name dropped Alex. That was the first time we had heard it. That's how it kind of started to spread. So it's for the best. It's horrible, but it could have been worse.
Well, and I still haven't found that clip, like where he actually, and I can only stomach so much of listening to his blather. But if y'all remember which one that was, I'd love to go and look it up and just see which little snippet he had to say.
I will send it to you. I can find it. If it's still up, I'm gonna be able to find it. So, yeah, I guess we could sue his business, Tim. I don't know how much of a business there actually is, so we'll see. But I mean, I feel like quite somber today.
Jim Terry, he's a man baby, and he's a fraud, con man.
Even if none of the other reprehensible, outrageous things that he does, even if all of that was stripped away, if a private investigator offered his services, took $3,000, said, I'm going to do this for you, I'm going to go interview these suspects, and then didn't do it and then ghosted you, that would just be, I mean, stuff like that happens all the time. People could pay like a mechanic, to fix their car and they like take off, right? Like, it's still, even if it was none of this other stuff, this is clear to me. This is like a clear, this is like clear fraud. This is like a clear scam. Like, did not follow through on providing.
I mean, Seriously, I don't think you really want the attention he tried to, that he gave to Dylan and Candace and Justin. Look at all the horrible things he said about Dylan.
Yeah, it was public humiliation and harassment.
And I hope, you know what, I'm going to make a video with all the horrible comments and things that he said, just like that, and all the horrible things he said. And I hope that families really take this into consideration. And I hope that we spread the word far and wide so that he cannot hurt people in other families like this again. We can't force him to stop. I mean, we can't force him to stop. But what we can do is warn other people and other families and try to prevent him from doing this to other people.
Marilyn's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And Marilyn's right. She says the sad part is he should not be getting the attention. Our son should be getting the attention, but he's making it all about him. So him making that taunt to Ashley saying you had your chance to get all this attention, could not be more baseless because it was never attention to help.
Well, no, and you know what? The sad part is she hired him first and had him, paid him. And then 3 days later, he took from Dylan Rounds' case. He should have been working one case at one time.
Mm-hmm. And Marilyn was right before Ashley. So
Laura said, I am so livid right now at his text message. Wow. Yeah, he is. That's awful. That is awful.
So, yeah.
Even though it does feel somber and it's hard to replay all of these things, just to be heard feels so good. Just to be heard, just to be able to say his name and let people know who he is and that he matters to a lot of people. That makes it better for me.
He absolutely did.
To be offered, and anything that makes you anything that feels like productive for you, or is anything they're getting out of this is positive, then that's what we should be doing. And I'm so happy. I don't know if happy, but it's very touching me. I just want to do more because you can never do enough. And so to hear you say that, I'm so happy that you're able to feel that today, and whatever you need.
Hey.
Yeah. Oh,
hey, Laura, what's up?
No, and I just got home. And I heard you closing out. I'm like, no, don't leave before I get home. I gotta say something. And then I heard the text message and I was like, wow. I cannot even believe that he would say that. And I just want you guys to know a verbal contract will hold up in court. Don't think because it's verbal, it won't hold up in court, because it will. A verbal contract is not as good as a written contract, but it will hold up.
I agree, especially when there's only a verbal contract and when it's recorded, legally recorded. So
absolutely. And I show my face all the time, and I guarantee that he wouldn't come on my panel with Ashley and else. And I show my face.
It wouldn't matter if we all showed our faces or not. He still wouldn't bring his coward ass over here and answer for all the shit he's done.
No. And I also want to say Dylan Round's case is not big at all. 3/4 of the world have no idea who Dylan Rounds is or care. His little small mentality thinks Dylan Rounds is huge because 5 YouTubers cover it.
Yeah, his sense of perspective is obviously extremely skewed. I mean, and we saw how fast when the FBI came in, that stuff happened out there.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really the biggest thing, is having law enforcement give their attention. But you're right. His sense of what is big or important right now is very skewed, because this is still a very small corner of the internet.
Exactly. And real small corner. I mean, the biggest, if you think of big creators like Stephanie Harlow, is the one that comes to mind immediately. You know, she'll get 100,000 views within the first hour that she puts something out. Or Bailey Sarian, she'll get 1 million views within the first few hours. And then you look at any of us, my highest views ever were 150,000 ever. And that's like 5 years ago.
Right.
You know, same thing. Like, and Tyler hasn't, I don't think Tyler's gotten that high. I don't think Doug's gotten that high on any video. So yeah, they're not big creators. They're not like making a dent in anything. They're keeping in this small little tiny community.
Right.
And he seems to think this is big. It's not big at all.
Right. Yeah. What matters is press coverage, like national press coverage or local press coverage, and like journalists being on it, and law enforcement, like dedicating resources. Like that's what moves the needle. And then there's also but there is that part, what Ashley's talking about is just support is very important. Like when Fit was going through, it's like having social support and getting that social support and that encouragement from an online community, like that's valuable. That has its own value, but those are separate. There's not like solving the case value. There's solving the like crimes value for professionals, and then there's rallying around somebody and offering resources and support that makes a difference too. Those are two different things. They're both important, but they're two different things.
And I also wanted to ask you something, Meg. Have you thought about, like, in the cases that you guys have shown, he seems to contact everybody through Facebook. Have you thought about, like, I think it would have a much bigger impact if you put these stories and all of the missing cases on Facebook. I know there's like tons of thousands, but, you know, on missing cases on Facebook would have a bigger impact than YouTube.
No, I actually agree with you. The one thing is that a lot of stuff has been happening on Facebook because there's been like there were people like Candy Howard and other people who were making the posts even from like their missing even from their groups for their individual missing loved one. And there was the Idaho, like a big Idaho missing persons group that made like a big kind of a public, what was it, like a PSA type thing early on, like even before we were hearing about it. So it's happening, but you were right, because I was also saying what we really need to do is put together something that we can kind of email out to admins. You're right, there's so many missing persons groups, but there's only certain ones that I found him in where he's like found people. So to get admins to like ban them from group, or to ban from groups or pin that or something like that, then I absolutely do think that is really important. But the one thing is, like, if you typed in Jim Terry PI, even in Facebook at the beginning of this, like a month ago, it didn't pop up anything crazy. But now if you put it in, it pops up like Candace's or Adventures with Purposes Facebook posts and things. It's not huge, but if you're putting that into your Facebook search, that's what you're going to find now. But I think you're right. If Facebook is important, because is where he's been getting
especially, hold on, let me mute this. Especially if he is, if that's where he's hitting his Facebook. You know what I mean?
Right. I think he found me in the Missing in Mississippi page.
He's in that page. There's quite a few people that he's the Missing in Mississippi page, and there was like a Montana missing persons one, and another like state page that, I went back and I was finding people that I'm putting on a list. I don't think I even talked to these people, right? Or I'm not reaching out to them, but just so I have a list of like everybody I saw that he tried to like hook. But it's tough because you have to go to every different missing persons group. There's a million of them, and search him. Okay, he's not in this group, right? And then like the next one. So
I actually found a post and screenshotted it the other day while y'all are talking. I'll look for it, and if I can find it, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, and it's crazy to see because they don't go back forever, but they go back like two years. But yeah, I mean, I do think it's important just to narrow the supply of people, because he says that he gets it from people calling him, the media calling him and stuff and giving him the stuff. Luckily, that's not real. So the only way he's really getting it so far is from the missing persons groups.
I can't even believe that he said that to you. I am so blown away. And Ashley, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
A couple things. One, with your son, have you spoke to any attorneys that work with the police in the area?
Not well, I mean, I've got attorneys in our family, but none that it's such a weird dynamic up there that there are some really, really good folks that pretty much have their hands tied because it's people that are higher up than them and more powerful that just don't allow certain things to be done.
Well, that's the reason why I'm asking is I don't know if you had read chat before. My son's father passed away on April 8th of this year while in police custody. We got the death certificate back today, actually, and he died of acute methamphetamine intoxication. Basically, he ingested meth. But when we were first looking for an attorney because it happened in police custody, we were told, no, we're not going to take it, or no, he was a drug addict, blah, blah, blah. Well, then my daughter-in-law had found an attorney. He's costing an arm and a leg on the back end, but he works with the police. He has filed multiple lawsuits against this particular department, mainly because of people dying in police custody. So that's, it got me thinking about your case. And I started thinking that maybe you should try to find an attorney that they'll probably be more expensive on the back end. When I say on the back end, they don't pay unless they actually have results, but they take more than the normal 33%. But if it's somebody that's worked with the police, that's, sued the police, that knows about police corruption, you might get further with the police because they might put pressure on the police.
It's possible, and it would take a much longer conversation to even give you a snippet.
Okay.
And I'm going to go ahead and tell you the corruption. It's flat out, it's corruption here in Holmes County. When you have a sheriff that's been in office since 1986,
okay,
I don't care what kind of politician you are, you spend that much time in office, you're in somebody's pocket or they're in yours.
Absolutely. But that's why you got to get around it there are attorneys that have taken that on. There are attorneys that do work with the corruption. Like, you just have to find the right one that is in there and that knows about it and works with them. Like, as an outsider, you're not going to get very far. If you work with somebody on the inside, you probably get a lot further. And everyone's saying contact the media. That's not a bad idea either.
Yeah. Well, and the way that we've kind of focused is my sister and I are doing most of the, the Facebook, the social medias, get me exposure out. My dad, with his background, his private investigator background, and his, he is very, very tight with the local law enforcement, the city officials and other county law enforcement officers. I have a family member that's a sheriff's deputy in Lauderdale County, and his brother is the chief deputy. But my dad has really, really focused on more of the inside scoop and the inside relationships with law enforcement. He hosted a lunch for the FBI recently. He's our guy because he speaks that language. And he knows the ins and outs, and he knows how lightly you have to tread, even though you're carrying a big stick, that kind of thing. So he has been, fabulous in that role, but he can only get so far too, because it's his grandson. It's emotional for him. And it's, it's just like being a nurse or a doctor or something like that. It's different when it's your own. And it puts that different spin on it to where it's hard to separate your personal feelings from, hey, this is, how we have to toe the line and this is what we have to do. It just makes it harder when you're emotionally connected like this. And I mean, he's named after my dad, he's just as much his son as he is mine. honestly.
But that's because he is emotionally invested. I would definitely, I mean, you've done some amazing work, and I didn't know that about Google, about the, longitude and latitude. I was like, wow, that's really interesting. But you've done so much work on your own. You can only go so far. I would absolutely put some focus into trying to find an attorney that has taken on and been successful with this police department, because then it doesn't matter how corrupt they are, because the lawyer would know that. The lawyer, there's got to be a lawyer or a couple lawyers that have taken them on and have got them to do stuff that you or I could never get them to do. There are lawyers out there that like specifically work with, against corruption, against, police corruption. They are out there. You got to find them.
But I thank you for that, because that's just another reason we're going, in this arena and things, is I know that there are things that we haven't thought of, and two brains are better than one, and, 1,000, in different ideas and different things. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And unfortunately, I know it due to personal experience. Unfortunately.
Those are some of the hardest lessons we learn.
That's true. So true. But I would love to bring you on my panel as well, whenever you're up to it, to talk about your son.
Okay. Oh, hold on. I'm going to send you. I just got a text from our guy.
Oh, no kidding. I was going to say, I bet he cannot resist himself.
Well, and I goaded him into it. But I don't want to give away too much of what I know, but I'm going to send you his response real quick. He's such a coward. I'll shoot it over to you real quick. But yeah, I just said, I guess you got busy. Hey, we missed you.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, Lord.
Because, you know what? Because
yeah, he can't answer for that. Seriously, he can't. There's nothing he can say that won't make him look ignorant, like he's,
and he actually said he was on the phone with an ex-girlfriend of Alex's, which I can, she was texting me kind of in the background. I think I sent one of you a note about it. Just like, I know where he is. I know where he is at this moment in time right now. And I know where he's going to be tomorrow. So that makes life. But she was on the phone with him, and she did a great job. She recorded it and all that. And he used some of his classiest phrases. But yeah, I just sent you the response. I just sent him a note back, a follow up to that text, and said, guess you got busy. Figures. That was the sass. That was Southern sass.
The one thing that would make him actually try to do something related to your case would not be to solve it, but to contact people to try to prove you wrong, right, or trip you up.
Right.
Ultimately, like I said, I've read like a few, even though I don't follow person cases here, I do like tend to read about them, like on like the Charlie Project and stuff, like, these missing cold cases. It's just, I do read about them a lot. And a lot of times it just feels like there's a point where the person just, there's nowhere else to go. Like there's no thought of like what happened next. Like there's a certain amount of information that's gone. And as I was reading everything that you sent over, I was like, oh, they did get a warrant for the guy's phone records. And like, it is like, I just felt like and you've done so much. I feel like there's so much information there that I do feel like I don't know. I guess I feel like kind of, I don't want to say like hopeful or optimistic, but I feel like this doesn't feel like these other cases where I've learned about where it's like, what the heck happens? Like, I feel like there's a lot of stuff there that's ready to
go. We just need somebody to do it. And that's where we are, and I thought Jim was going to be that guy. Right. I honestly thought Jim was going to be that guy.
Right. And if he was really the guy who's knocking on their doors and, following them around, like around their day, and like, a tough guy asks some questions, that sounds like a great plan, but he didn't. But I mean, also your sheriff has to die eventually, right? If he's been in office since 1986. How old is he?
Well, I would imagine probably in his, I guess, mid-60s. I don't know, mid-60s, maybe 70.
I thought he was like 85.
He'll do it as long as they keep voting him back in. He'll keep on going.
But it's like, it feels like there is a lot right there, but it's also, it's not just a mystery for you and your family, right? Like you are just so tough and amazing. Like it is pretty amazing. Before I started going on like YouTube and meeting all these people, like a lot of people because of Michael Long or whatever, I had literally never talked to anybody who lived in the South. Like I had never heard in real life a person with a Southern accent. And now I feel like so many people have Southern accents, and it's crazy how big this country is and how much you feel like I'm an American. I'm like, I've never met anybody from the South before. Not really. And now I talk to people from the South like all the time. And like I think you're right. Like you definitely have that, I don't know, whatever that is, that Southern sass or that Southern strength or something. I don't know. Like I just like, I'm impressed. Like I feel like you do get stuff done.
Well, and if anybody did the math, I started out in life, everything happened a little bit earlier for me. I was still a teenager when I got pregnant and had my son. Life moved a little bit faster for me. I had to grow up faster than I should have. I took some hard hits, some tough blows, lots of life lessons, but, I was fortunate to be surrounded by an amazing family, that, we just, the support and system and, not that we don't fight and carry on like every other family, but, you got to suck it up. Suck it up and do what you got to do to get through the day, because you have to, and, and that's just, it is what it is. But it's, Southern women, we don't have the authority on strength and things like that, but being able to remain graceful through strife,
right?
That's something that, I would love to take credit for it, but, God's got me. Mm-hmm. God's got me, and God's got my baby. And, there's not a step that I take in the day that I take alone. And that's big. I know that no matter, even if physically I'm alone in my house or what, I'm never alone. And being able to know that, I have my granny has been in heaven. I know she's been with me for the past, 80 days. I know she is. I know I've got loved ones that are helping me get through this too.
I can like hear like the faith in your voice too. And then that's as somebody who does not have like that same kind of faith, but is jealous of it. Like when I hear what people who have true faith, it always seems like that must be such a reassuring, comforting feeling to have and to walk with all the time. And like I'm even getting like goosebumps right now because I hear you talk about it. Like I can hear that.
Yeah. Well, and if you want some goosebumps, I'm going to send you one more little picture in text that and just to kind of tell you a little bit of story. When we were finally able to go to Alex's residence, and it was a terrible situation that got us over there. They had, we weren't allowed to go in his house because they were calling it a crime scene. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call from somebody and they're like, didn't you say that Alex's house was at so-and-so and so-and-so? And I'm like, hey, he's like, well, there's people in it and they're just taking stuff out and putting it in the yard. And I was like, whoa, and so we jumped in the car. I called my dad and we met over there and things. And so we were able to get Alex's, stuff, and I didn't even have time to get everything because there was a family living there. A family was moving in and they were just throwing all of his stuff outside and all. But when, we're throwing it in boxes and storage bags and things. But when I got home that night, and started, and I'm gonna see if I can get through this and tell the story. But I started going through the stuff and, I've been begging for days, baby, just let me know where you are. Just tell me, just send me some kind of something to let me know where you are. And as I was going through things, it literally fell in my lap. A piece of paper fell in and it was folded up and fell into my lap. And when I picked it up and read it, I knew that even, and I said this the other day, even if he wasn't physically here anymore, I know my baby's okay.
Right.
And he was able to tell me that. And I'm trying to, yeah, here it is. So I'll send it to you. I don't know if you can even put it on screen, but
Queen can definitely.
I needed it.
I'll put it up for you, or Egg can. It's either one of us will put it up.
And
Whatever
I just shot it over to you in Messenger, but it was literally this folded up piece of paper that was inside of his wallet. And here, and I'm gonna send a second one that kind of shows everything that was in his wallet, and just the fact that of all those things that were in there, this one little, folded up little piece of paper happened to be the one that fell down in my lap. And when I opened it and read it, all I could do was say thank you. Just thank you for letting me know.
And it's the third step prayer. That's perfect. Do you think that was him or just one of your guardian angels?
I think it was him.
And it fell into our lap.
Oh.
Alex hated the life he was living. He hated it. And the bondage of addiction it's got to be the worst torment for anybody. And he hated it. And he struggled with it daily. And there was nothing more than he wanted to just be able to be himself and be with his family and be with that little girl of his that he absolutely adores, and she adores him. But he knew he needed to be a better person in order to be a better dad. And he was, he was trying to give it. Did he just get out of jail and go straight to the, to the drug guy's house? Yeah. But it didn't mean he didn't want to and he wasn't trying.
No. I think that's it's like so, and he was carrying this was his, right? So like he was carrying this with him and had this in his possession. So
yeah. Kept it in his wallet. Yeah.
It's just, even I was thinking, like, I didn't say this before, but even when you're saying that you had, when you were driving him there, and that, what his mind was fully focused on, and like what he was choosing because he did not really have a choice. And you also said he had been struggling with this for 10 years, right? So it takes quite a toll on a person and their relationships. Right. And then you were telling me, like, he was like, oh, you dropped me off here, like, love you, mom. Like, and you said you were ready to well check the next day because he texts you all the time. Like, you guys had passwords. Like,
right.
You had, and for somebody who was 10 years into a heroin addiction,
right,
still have that kind of loving relationship with his loved ones, to still be like that much of himself, to me, it says a lot, because I think that a lot of people, they've driven so many people away at that point where people might still care, but it doesn't feel loving, right. It doesn't feel normal, like when you were describing your drive.
Well, and the two things, and it's like I said, I will carry the weight of knowing that I was the person that took him there for the rest of my life, regardless of it, regardless of everything else. And it's, if it is my weight to bear, if it is, my burden, I can carry it. But what I do also know is that I got to spend an entire afternoon with my boy, 100% sober, 100% himself. And it was just me and him. And we laughed and we had fun and we ate pizza and we just caught up and we just got to be, Ma and Al. And I will forever be grateful for that.
You're right, because that's to have it. That's like your last memories, and they're pretty much untainted. And I know that you're never going to let go of that guilt. That's just irrational for us to ask for you to ask yourself to do, but we all know that because of the way addiction works, that he was going there no matter what. He would have gotten to there, or, you know, to what he needed in that moment, no matter what. And it's true what you said. If you hadn't been the one that dropped him off, he would be lost in the night to you. There would be no sense of even where to start. And so, like, you know, there was no somebody who's like, you know, like the way you're describing him, this wonderful day you had, probably the last thing that he wanted to do was to then go and use. But that was just out of his control. So I think that, you know, I hate to think that you would feel guilt. That's totally normal. And that's, you're not going to be able to talk yourself out of it. But I think that it would be very different, because where would you even be starting right now? You wouldn't have been able to avoid the outcome.
Exactly.
Because it had control.
And it takes my husband reminding me of that, usually daily.
Right.
Hey, Ashley.
Is this George? Yeah.
Yes. Hey, good day. Hey, Queen. Hey, so I don't mean to interject, and I won't take up too much time, but I'm actually a Queen is a really good friend of mine. Good Egg. I know Good Egg really well. These ladies are awesome, and I'm glad that, you know, you guys have all been connected. And I haven't. Queen has been sharing all of this information, so I haven't been as up to date as I should have, especially now that I'm kind of realizing your situation. And I just wanted to first of all say I'm very sorry for what you're going through. You know, anybody that's experienced or, you know, seen addiction, it's difficult. And I'm hurting for you, honestly. So I'm from Madison County. I'm in Madison. And
down here in the SIP?
Yes. And
we're close then.
Well, I know. Well, I'm just sitting here and I'm like, oh, well, shit. Like, we've got mutual friends. I actually tried to friend you on Facebook, and for some reason it's not letting me. I did, you know, join the other page. You know, just kind of reading through, and, you know, with your dad and the posts he's made. You know, I noticed there was something, you know, you guys have done something in Madison. And so, you know, if there's anything that I can do to help, I'm happy to. I'm kind of all over the place sometimes, but yeah. So, and I have a 20-year-old son. I mean, again, I think there's, you know, so many people that can relate to you on so many levels. And, you know, the fact that this, you know, just to exacerbate the whole situation with, you know, Jim Terry is it's just nauseating. And I noticed that at some point, I guess you guys have been talking to the Attorney General's office, and I told Queen earlier, that's why I friended you. I mean, it just occurred to me that, you know, I don't know who you guys are dealing with there, but you know, maybe we can kind of hook up. And I've got a friend that works in the Attorney General's office, so whatever I can do.
And I would love any of that, you know, any help. And I know that, you know, she's kind of up to her ears right now, you know, with the national spotlight being on Mississippi, and our Attorney General with you know, the political stuff that's going on with the Supreme Court and things like that. You know, but she's got, and my dad actually has made some really good contacts in the AG's office, as well as you know, a few others in some other additional agencies. Maybe able to help us.
Yeah, well, that's great. I mean, that's, you know, and I mean, you know,
but pooling resources is
absolutely. Well, I'm just sitting here and I'm like, because we had talked about this before, and I'm like, well, I'm in Mississippi, you know, and of course I'm just like, of course his dirtbag scumbag comes from, you know, Mississippi. I mean, just like some stuff that goes on here. I mean, I was listening to, you know, talking about the small town politics, and, you know, I mean, in Madison and Madison County, it's just,
Oh yeah, we live in Brick City, right?
Right, same type deal. So I mean it's tough, it's tough to crack sometimes into these, into with, like you said, with everything else that they have going on. I was just sitting here a couple hours ago and I was like, oh my gosh, I played soccer in college with a girl whose brother works for the attorney general's office, and I know him and his wife well, and they're really, really amazing people. So I just wanted to tell you, if there's, we can hook up and maybe just, whatever, however I can help. And also too, I mean, I don't know what you've done like locally there in Madison, or in any of the groups. I mean, there's moms groups, and I mean, it's definitely worth the share. So
Yes, absolutely. And I'll definitely connect with you outside of this, and
yeah, okay.
and that way we can get together, because that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, G's one of my really good friends, so I can, get together with you, get you guys together too. So
that'd be great. Thank you.
That's how I also feel like, there's a lot of stuff, resources that like, searches or, passing out flyers, and I'm, we're so far away from each other that I even like a week ago when I first kind of found your story, before I even spoke to you, I like took the Facebook post and I put it in a group I'm in with Georgia, and I'm like, Georgia, can you share this? You're the only person I know who lives in Mississippi, because stuff that's important. You can do a lot from far away, but there's a lot of stuff that, you can't do unless like you're physically boots on the ground. So.
But you know what, though, I will say, as women, we do some really good networking here. Like, seriously.
Absolutely.
Oh,
and
shit.
And that's what it's about, is connecting people with, connecting, even though we may be far apart, all
well, yeah, I was
not even 7 degrees of separation anymore,
And don't underestimate the ability of women to go full on stalking mode, especially if it's for a good cause.
Sometimes.
Especially if it's for a good cause, right?
But that's right. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We'll hook up. I don't want to, take up too much of your time, but like I said, I don't know why Facebook wouldn't let me request you, but I noticed that we have, several mutual friends too. So, yeah, well, I'll definitely keep you in my prayers, and, anything I can do to help get the word out, I'd be more than happy to.
I think I have my Facebook set up. I have a setting on my Facebook where people can't friend me. So if I've ever become friends with somebody who also has that setting, we like have no way of ever friending each other on Facebook. So like it definitely happens.
Well, and it could be something, because I just recently put my page back to private after having all these public posts. But if you want to, I can jump on there. If you want to try to send me another friend request, I can see if I can.
Yeah. Or Queen. I mean, Queen can give you my
I'll do like a group chat or something with us or whatever. Or put you guys, you know what I'm saying? I gotcha as soon as we get off here. Matter of fact, I think Laura said she's gonna go live.
You can give her my phone number too, or whatever. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I'll just put us in a chat, and then you guys can go from there. You know what I'm saying? I can even put you guys in one and leave. Whatever works. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, he's just
good for you, girl. I'm down to help. Down to help the cause. Anything to help. You know what I mean? Whatever works.
Yeah, I think everybody has that feeling right now, like wanting to help, and I'm really like happy. I don't want to say happy. I guess I feel very accomplished doing this stream, and I'm very happy that it was a positive experience for
right.
And I just feel like it was very positive overall.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it gave the seriousness and the clarity to the situation that it deserves, after this idea of like, we've been watching a lot of mockery of serious situations, and a lot of, just lies and lack of information. And it took that's a bitter taste in my mouth. And I felt like today was a good palate cleanser to have people who are, good, normal, regular people, like just talk about something with the appropriate seriousness and the appropriate information and clarity. And it feels good to do that after watching so much of the opposite the last.
Well, I'm proud of you ladies. You guys, like, seriously, y'all are, just, I know how much time you guys have spent on this. And so, yeah. But thank you for having me up.
Thank you for
Okay.
I only
Yeah,
recognized I can't see who's on panel, so I was like, "Is that Georgia?"
I know, and I added you without even saying anything because I didn't want to be rude. I didn't want to interrupt
No,
or
it's
anything.
okay. I didn't want to interrupt either, but I just
Laura's
wanted
like,
to
who's
come
on
and say that.
panels? Who are we talking to? I'm like, oh, shit.
Well, it's just Georgia.
Like,
But thank you. And then Marilyn, thank you so much for being here. I can't wait till we can.
Yes, Marilyn has been. Yes, I was going to say that's another one. I would love to have her able to come up and talk about her experience as well. You know what I mean? And her son and
that is strength. And I will say that. I mean, I know each of us are having our own struggles, but I honestly, and that is absolute strength. And Jonathan Estes, they years, and his sister is just still holding holding that flame and doing, every day. And it's, I admire y'all's strength in being able to carry it as long as you have.
Yeah, there are.
We will never give up.
that's right.
Thank you.
Don't sell yourself short. None of us have the strength that a missing mom does.
No, and none of our problems and our struggles and our difficulties they're real, but they pale in comparison. But I think Ashley's right. Like, when things are put on your shoulders, you just have to keep going forward, and all of a sudden you're dealing with it, something that you could never imagine dealing with. And I should only speak for myself, but my problems, which feel huge sometimes, pale in comparison to what she's going through. And so I wish I could do as much as I can.
Well, what y'all have done, and I can't even, there's no way for me to even thank y'all enough, because this is honestly the most that I've been able to tell our story. And it's, and it's like, y'all heard throughout it. I mean, it's all there. I just need somebody to put some action behind it.
Yeah. I have that same feeling. I know exactly now that you shared it. That's a palpable feeling.
That and two, with that Google takeout data, honestly, I know that I probably didn't even touch on how much more information is available. And if anybody, needs me to kind of walk them through that, and they can take it the rest of the way, if that brings one person home because you were able to find, that one little lat long ping or that one little something, I will be more than happy to now I'm not much of a teacher I can try, but it's, at least show you what I found, and maybe it can be used.
Yeah. And you were saying that was basically something that it's Google if you have an Android, and it's just running all the time.
And if you have Google services on your phone, period, right, it tracks you. But it just goes so much more in depth, because Android and Google, I mean, they're the same company. They are the same entity, basically, and so they're able to have so much more data, but being able to pull, and it's, there's the regular timeline in there, but when you go to your Google account, and I think there's somewhere you click in there and it says my data in Google, and you can pull out, it says, you download the file, and it's not like words. I mean, it is a lot of just numbers and letters and slashes and brackets and things like that. And, now that I know how to read it, it kind of, it does out in sections, but it's, which cell phone towers did it ping off of? What were the megahertz here? And I mean, it's just a wealth of information.
Does it work if location is off?
That part of it doesn't give you as much, but it still gives you, every time your phone connects to Wi-Fi, every time your phone connects to a tower, every time you're doing it, it absolutely does. And it will still tell you whether you were in a car, if you were on foot, on a bus. I don't know how it tells the difference in a bus or a car, on a, off-road vehicle, if you were walking, if you were running, if you, all of that.
Wow.
Which just blows my mind.
I never knew that. And I've like worked for phone companies and I never knew that. It's very
right. I mean, I have a first cousin that's worked for AT&T for 20 something years. And she was like, you can do what? I was like, right. I hated Big Brother before this. Now you can know everything you want.
Right.
So even that thing that I was showing, that thing with like the maps and the addresses, that's not what you pulled out. That's what you pulled out, kind of just like whole blocks of text, and you
it is. And just like one little simple line of it, I had some of it pulled up today that and I can send that on a side note too. It's literally raw data. Wow. That they, and I don't know, I don't even think I have a screenshot of it, but it and I can kind of send it, but and I don't know if I say that, if you're supposed to say JSON or JSON file, but you have to have a special, app to open it, or you can open it in WordPad. And it's just lines and lines and lines and lines and lines of data. And I just basically, because it went all the way back, it kind of tickled me to probably one of the first phones that he ever had.
My God.
It was like 2000, right? It was like 2008 or something. It went back. So it was just this overwhelming amount of data. So of course I just shot down to the bottom, what was the last activity on Google? So it made it a little bit easier, and then just went, from the bottom up and just, backed it up. But it tells you everything. And it absolutely blew me away. But I spent just about 2 solid days on my laptop, sitting in my kitchen and just writing. I mean, literally pages of latitude, longitude, just going down each one and just writing them. And there's probably some way that you can put it in some program where it would map it out for you, rather than me having to type in each individual one. But I did what I knew how to do.
That's amazing. And actually, Horshell in the chat says all of our phones have kind of an internal gyroscope, and it's the same technology that tells you how fast you're going to get somewhere, because it can tell how fast you're moving.
Right. Life 360. It'll tell my husband when I'm speeding on the interstate.
Yeah. I have Life 360 with my kids, and my son tonight, a funny story, but he was like, I said, where are you going? He's like, I'm going fishing with some friends. I said, well, I need their numbers. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I need their phone numbers. So he's like, why, Mom? I'm almost 18. I said, I don't care. I need phone numbers. So he's like, why? I said, well, what happens if something happens? What am I going to call the police? I don't know who he's with or what he's, the people, his friends. I don't know their numbers. I don't know their names. He's like, Ma, you have Life 360. I'm like, what if they throw your phone in the ocean? He's like, what is wrong with you? I said, I do true crime every day.
Right. I know what happens out there.
Exactly. I was like, just give me the numbers, license plate numbers, something. So he's like, Mom, you're crazy. I said, no, I'm not. And I was like, if they throw your phone in the ocean, Life 360 is not going to work. And he's like, Mom, nobody's throwing my phone in the ocean. I said, just give me their damn numbers and move on.
And then, yeah, like all these different things. And so actually Easy Now in the chat says JSON, the JSON, is JavaScript. And any web developer programmer would be able to read and decipher that one entirely for you. So she did it herself, but basically it's Java. So any coder or programmer would be able to decipher it quickly for people who want to use this tip. And then I don't know if it's Delana or Delana, but like, thank you so much. She said she's an admin of a missing persons group, and then she would be happy to share.
And I just sent you and it's just a couple of pages, but it's certainly not all of the information that we have. But this is an example of what you'd be looking at. It's got latitude, longitude, accuracy, altitude, vertical accuracy. You really, honestly, when you look at it at first, I'm like, I don't even know what this means. But, went back on Google and it explains it all to you on the Google site of how.
Yeah, it's like Java. It's like if you open up the source info on a web page, and it's just like all the
when you inspect the web page over on the side, right?
crazy that you went through that and just had to read it and like translate it.
We do what we need to do.
So we learned something today.
Yes.
I'm going to jump down because I got to get ready for my own live. But I'm going to be discussing Jim's text message. And Ashley, I'll get a hold of you through Queen. I'll email her and get your information.
That sounds great. I look forward to it.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Once again, Queen, I don't know how you do this because I used to like watch your lives all the time and wish you would stay live longer. And now, like when you're doing most of like when you're doing a bunch of it and you have to like be on top of it, it is exhausting. I am like so impressed by people who are able to do this like on their own.
I had no idea we had been on for 3 hours.
It goes fast, right? Like we used to have during the lockdown when we were first discussing this crazy guy, Mike Lung. None of us were going to work because it was real lockdown, you know, like kids were being homeschooled, like nobody was going into work. And we had weird sleep patterns. And we would be on these lives for like 7 or 8 hours. Just people go up and panel, just talking in chat. And now I think back on that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. But, you know, it does go fast. You get used to it. It's fun. It's like it's
all right, ladies. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up because we've been on here 3 hours. That's a long time.
Yes, it is.
I know.
Yes, it is.
And it was quite the, you know, it was quite the accomplishment and like for you too, Ashley. So thank you so much, and thank you, Queen.
And I thank y'all too. I mean, I only got weepy a little bit. Hopefully, nobody, you know, y'all were still able to understand me in my boo boos.
Job actually like laying it out. So I feel. Usually it's very confusing when you try to listen to people like tell these kind of stories. I thought you did a great job. So,
and I thank you for that.
All right. Well, good night, ladies. I'm gonna drop off.
Good night, and thank you so much for coming up here, Ashley. I really appreciate it, and I'm sorry that you know, Coward didn't show up, but I kind of knew he wouldn't.
Right.
You know, it would be nice if he would answer for him, you know, for his scams and, you know, the con he ran on you, but it is what it is. You know, karma's terror. It's really ugly. I'm sure he'll get his down the line.
Oh, so yeah. And I'm sure he'll be on somebody else's thing tonight talking about us again and all that. And who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? As long as he doesn't.
Right. I was going to say, he won't come and talk to our face and he won't come over here. And I've dropped the link, StreamYard link. There's no reason why he can't click it and come up here other than he's too scared to do that. So I don't really care. Like I said, I mean, if he can't answer for himself and why he scammed you and did what he did, it is what it is. I mean, hopefully we can prevent other families from going through this. And, you know, he lies. I don't think he has anything lined up. But again, like I said, if we can prevent families from going through this, then that's our plan. So
absolutely. And I thank y'all for doing it.
No problem. You have a good night and thank you. Oh, Arlene Easterling said, thanks everyone for your support. Our family appreciates every one of you.
That's Nana. That's my mama. Thanks, Mom.
Aw, hi, Nana.
All right, y'all. You ladies have a good evening. And once again, I appreciate it more than I can say.
Yes, you too. And we'll talk to you later.
Okay. Thanks so much.
No problem. So you guys, I think that was a really good stream. I think that was a really good live, and I appreciate everybody's support, and I appreciate everybody for being here.